Hey, free world, who you gonna call?
If there's something wrong in the neighborhood, who you gonna call? Bomb buster. If you wanna clear the world of nuclear threat, who you gonna call? Bomb buster. I ain't afraid of no bombs. Donald, I don't allow you no bombs. If you're all alone, pick up the phone. Who you gonna call? Bomb buster.
Well, there you go. There you go. The Bomb Buster. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to, I called it the following program, but it's supposed to be viewers' discretion. Oh my gosh. I just realized that as the words were coming out of my mouth. I guess it's the following program. A surprise appearance of the following program. We apologize for canceling viewers' discretion this evening. I'm such a boomer. Oh, wow. So, really exciting weekend. Some finally got some news to talk about in case you missed it. In case you've been busy working, you're a weekend warrior in the sense of warrior not being partying but actually working. You maybe haven't checked the news. Maybe I am your only source of news. It's possible. There's a couple of you who are like that. A couple of intelligent people, obviously. So we bombed Iran. We bombed Iran. 3 different nuclear facilities, Natanz, Fedro, the third one. 6 bombs. Trump sent in, leveled it. So many things to talk about. I've been in spaces here and there, and I've been trying to keep you alerted. If you're on locals, I've been trying to keep you alerted where I've been popping in and talking to different people about different sorts of things. Last night, I was with Diligent Denizen, with a group that I would call very mixed about their support for the bombing. And today I joined Stealth Medical, which is a group which is very much in favor of the bombing. And I've sort of been poking around a lot on social media today. To try and hopefully bring some sanity, because I think that the number of voices out there that I think are reliable, intelligent, and trustworthy is dwindling far too rapidly. I saw a post from Owen Schroyer, which I didn't save. I'm going to have to spend a moment pulling it up. Like an 8-minute video dissecting whether or not MAGA has died. Which prompted the title for tonight's show is MAGA Dead. And we're going to watch his video at some point. Like I said, it's an 8-minute clip. And I'm going to just circle around different people who are regarded as social media influencers from the right, and they're very heated and passionate opposing takes as to what do we make out of this whole bombing situation. Was it a success? Which initially everyone was saying, even if you hate it, it's a success. Now there's questions about that. Then there's issues as to brewing conflicts between Trump and Massie, which I certainly plan on spending some time talking about. And just in general, people really, Dave Smith becoming like someone who's really seems to be mixing it up with a lot of people. Candace Owens coming out there and being very Candace-y. Very Candace-y. And it seems as if there's a lot of infighting. There's a lot of infighting that you can't deny. And people are saying, should I abandon Tucker Carlson? Should I abandon Steve Bannon? Should I, there just seems like there's no one you can even, who's got like a massive following, that you can even feel is reliable. At the same time, and should you abandon them? I'll weigh in with that as far as like, at what point does someone show that they've crossed a line that's too far? Some of those names I would say yes. Some of them I would say no. And I'll explain to you why it is that I come to that. At least my philosophy. You can embrace my philosophy. You can abandon it. But I do think that there were a bunch of folks who really stained their reputations probably a bridge too far with some of the takes that they had. And I won't trust them. I mean, you can feel free to trust whoever you want, but I'm not going to trust them. I'm like, okay, this is grifting. This is grifting 101 right here. This is grifting 101. And I'll explain to you why I think that. Whenever I come to a position, I try and give you my justification for. Before I get into the whole Iran thing, one of the reasons that the left is very excited, very, very excited about this bombing, aside from the fact that they love seeing the fracturing of MAGA. And this has fractured. You can't deny the fact that this has had an impact on MAGA and people drawing sides within our own party here. One of the reasons I think they're excited about it is because it helped really hide a story that came out this weekend, which was humiliating for the left. A lot of people on the left were trying to claim that Vance Belter, the assassin who killed a Democratic state assembly leader and shot at a second one, remained at large for a couple of days before he was finally tracked down and caught. So there were a lot of folks on the left, the grifters on the left, which I think that they're all grifters. I think that there's maybe a tiny few of them that are not grifting from the left. I think they're all grifters on the left. They're all screaming, "Oh, you see, it's crazy Republicans, crazy Republicans." Well, that got shattered. That got shattered pretty nicely. Breaking update from Post Millennial: Minnesota assassin left unhinged letter claiming Tim Walz instructed him to kill. Oh no. Oh, that's going to hurt that whole narrative. Vance Belter, 57 years young, the suspect in the attempted assassination of Minnesota state lawmakers, made the claim that Governor Tim Walz instructed him to kill U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar in order for the governor to run for her role in the Senate, according to Minnesota Star Tribune. He's a Trump voter. He's a Trump voter. Didn't you hear his roommate say he's a Trump voter? And yet he's listening to instructions from Tim Walz. Why would he be listening to him if he voted for Trump? But he's a Trump voter, said his boyfriend, partner, roommate, who's not his wife, at least in marriage. I don't know. The letter claims that he was trained by the U.S. military unofficially and that Walz told him to kill Klobuchar as well as other lawmakers, the outlet said, citing two sources familiar with the letter. According to another report from Alpha News, citing multiple sources familiar with the investigation into Belter and the shooting, said it in a, quote, confession letter intended for FBI Director Kash Patel. Belter confirmed that he was the shooter at large in Minnesota involved in the two shootings. Charging documents and police indicated that the handwritten note was from Dr. Vance Luther Belter, and the letter was found in the Buick that he had purchased in the hours after shooting Minnesota Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, who were hospitalized. The outlet reported Belter fatally shot Minnesota House Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark after shooting Hoffman and his wife. Belter has been charged with murder as well as stalking by the Department of Justice in the case. He's also facing state charges of murder. An affidavit stated that evidence in the case indicates that Belter's extensively planned his stalking murders and attempted murders. There were around 45 names of lawmakers and others inside a notebook, including the names of Hoffman as well as Hortman. However, Walz was not named in a typed copy of a hit list that Alpha News received. Well, why would he be if he's sending him out there? You wouldn't put your own name on that list, would you, Timmy? Now, I'm not alleging that Tim Walz actually directed him to do it. I want to be crystal clear about that. Okay, let's just write off. 3 is the number. The number is 3. You shall count 3. Not 2. Not 4. 5 is right off. Belter is accused of posing as law enforcement to carry out the crimes and was dressed in a hyper-realistic mask. We kept hearing about this hyper-realistic Walter White mask. When the shooting was carried out, a stack of flyers with no kings on them were also found in the car that he had used, leading to several of the anti-Trump protests to be canceled in Minnesota later that day. Oh, so that's so he would know where to find people at the No Kings rally. I guess what they wanted us to believe. Anyhow, bottom line is this. Not a Trump guy. He's not one of ours. They're a bunch of crazies. I feel like there's probably a bunch of crazies on our side. You know, some of them may have rhymes names that, you know, now I don't want to point any fingers, you know. I can think of one person, probably none of you heard of them. I don't want to point any fingers. I'll just say their name might rhyme with Candace Owens. But yeah, so the real killing type, the real killing type going back to, like, you know, the first Republican president who was assassinated by a Democrat. Yeah. It's just part of who they are. It's in the commie blood. It's in the whole racism thing. Everything about it. They're the killers. They're the killers. I'll go one step further. If you look up all the convicted killers in American history for the last, like, 50 years, I'll bet at least 60 to 70% of them are Democrats. Just saying. Anyhow, Sharon Tate says, let's see what shenanigans Joe gets up to tonight. I may get up to a couple of shenanigans. I can't believe how crazy some people are sounding. Like, really crazy. Really, really crazy. By the way, I should point out to y'all, if you want, I'd like to sort of keep this under 2 hours, just because that way I'm able to clip. Like StreamYard has a thing that enables me to clip if I cut it short of 2 hours. Get to like 1:59 or less, and then I can clip it easily. I haven't tried it yet because I haven't had a stream under 2 hours in roughly a year. Like, once the camera goes on, it doesn't know how to go off in under 2 hours. So I'd like to do that, but I will. I do have up there in my thing that if we get and I put a target up that I will go for a full 3 hours if we get 15 super chats / rants of $10 or more. So that's the goal, and I'll also have a call-in session of the show. So that's the plan for tonight. And the rest of the night's going to be Iran. The rest of the night is going to be all about Iran and all that other stuff. So that's where we're going. I have 1 billion or fewer different tabs that I have opened here because I've just been saving. So let's get on into it. The weirdest take of them all. The weirdest take. Like, just what the heck is happening here? I'm going to start with the weirdest take of them all. Comes courtesy of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, put out an official statement sympathizing with the victims of the recent bombings in Iran. Quote, our hearts go out to the victims and families. Thank you, Diligent Denizen, for sharing this. Our hearts go out to the victims and families impacted by the recent bombings in Iran. While this tragic event occurred overseas, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is closely monitoring the situation alongside our local, state, and federal partners. What the heck is wrong with you? Who does this? Who writes stuff? Who decided this is something we need to put down? And the public needs to know where we're coming from on this. At the moment, there are no known threats to LA County. However, out of an abundance of caution, we are increasing patrol checks at places of worship and other sensitive locations throughout the county. What type of places of worship? I don't even know if they're talking about protecting the mosques, churches, synagogues. I don't even know what the heck they're even saying that all of them. Which do you think is in danger? The safety and security of our communities remain our top priority. We'll continue to assess and respond to any developments as they arise. If you see something say something. That was a statement they made earlier. Very recently, however, because I am on top of the news, at least as best I can be, this is an update that came minutes ago. After commenting on foreign policy and military matters, the LA County Sheriff apologizes for it. LA County Sheriff Department statement. We're issuing this statement to formally apologize for an offensive and inappropriate social media post recently posted on department social media platforms regarding the ongoing conflict in Iran. This post was unacceptable, made in error, and does not reflect the views of Sheriff Robert G. Luna or the department. As a law enforcement agency, we do not comment on foreign policy or military matters. Our mission remains solely focused on protecting public safety and serving our diverse communities. Oh, that's so nice to hear. That's nice that that's part of your mission statement. Fully recognize that the words and messages we share carry weight as law enforcement professionals. We're entrusted with a position of public responsibility, and the trust demands that we communicate accurately. In this instance, we fell short of that expectation. You think? Sitting there sympathizing with the Ayatollah wasn't the right call? That's what you're basically, that's what your takeaway was. We regret that we displayed sympathy for Khomeini. We think that might have been pushing it too far. We've updated our social media posts and launched an internal review to determine how it was created and published. We're never going to tell you how it happened. Steps are being taken to strengthen our social media oversight protocols because that was freaking humiliating, and we got our butts handed to us for it improperly. So, yeah. Now, someone else who got his butt handed to him, the Hodgetwins. Life, I don't think, is ever going to be fully the same for the Hodgetwins because of something that they did, which is they came out on X screaming. The Hodgetwins, if you're unfamiliar with who they are, these are the Hodgetwins, very popular right-wing social media commentators. Their channel is significantly larger than mine. 3.3 million followers here. And what they put out there, I don't know what the heck this is. What? Deep State's pushing for another regime change war. Good night, y'all. The fight continues. It's a lot of can't believe that we're following them. Can't believe that we're going to war. This is all because of that we're going for war. Reposting salty crackers. Okay, not that one. But now look at this. They reposted Viva Fry. They reposted Viva. Should we watch this clip? But they've been a couple of times apparently. We'll come back to this clip in a moment. But apparently that was what they're writing on X. But when you look at what they're putting on Facebook, the Hodgetwins over here, 6.5 million followers, they put out there, President Trump just unleashed American might, ordering a devastating attack at Iran's nuclear sites at Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, crushing their dangerous ambitions. For 14 years, Trump's team has been crystal clear. Iran cannot have nukes, and he's followed through with a historic strike, a full payload of bombs. Oh, my God. That is not what they wanted to happen. Oh, my gosh. What are you doing? What are you doing here? What are you doing? So on one place you're saying, how dare we bomb, and like, we're Israel's lackeys now. And over here, that's on what they're saying on X, and on Facebook, completely different message. So, yeah. They were not hacked. No, they were not hacked. I think they were playing both sides here. I think it's safe to say that they were playing both sides. I want to come back to that clip in a moment. but I think they were hacked. Now they claim. Should we hear this? Should we see the defense? Let's see the defense. This is their defense. I think they might pin it, the defense. They went after Cat Turd for basically calling him out. And what they claimed is that someone who produces their content for them is the one who posted the Facebook stuff, and that person has been fired for the take they expressed. Where are you? Where are you? Let's get their official wording. We're going to talk about Trump's call for and he was mad at Laura Loomer because she's the one who knows the Facebook thing. So he was coming after Laura Loomer hard. Where are you? Oh my gosh, they post a lot. A lot. I saw it like 10 hours ago. I'm gonna be here for a minute. Going after Charlie Kirk. You can see in their timeline. This is what's interesting about this is going through this is everyone. You can see how the sides are dividing. So Viva seems to be asking a lot of questions. Clint Russell is very bothered by this. Clint Russell, also known as Liberty Lockpad, is going to be on my show on Tuesday. If that's going to trigger you, I don't know what to tell you. Do I agree with him about his take about this bombing? No, not at all. I plan on having a discussion. Perhaps at times a debate, where I basically want to get where he's coming from, his sources of information, what he thinks is like a healthy direction. And to the extent that I see that he's getting things wrong, I'm going to try and call him out on it and say, this is where I think you're wrong. I don't think he's someone, unlike others, like, I don't know, certain figures, I don't want to point, who come across as having a problem with the Jews. I don't think that Clint qualifies as that at all. I don't think that's where he's coming from. I think he has a deep distrust of Israel and perhaps the Israeli state. I don't think he has a problem with Jews per se, the way others seem to. It's my own personal perception. I could be wrong, but I'm definitely willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I have no reason to assume that it's motivated by an anti-Jew perspective. It could be an Israel derangement syndrome that we're going to see Patrick McDavid talking about, but I am going to have him on here, and I think it's healthy to have a conversation. I think it's healthy to have a conversation with him. So we're going to be doing that. That's going to be Tuesday night at 10. So Elijah Schaefer also obviously against it. Cat Turd is supporting Trump in this action. This is the video that I really want to set this aside for later. We're going to definitely save that aside for later, because that's the video I want to talk about. Candace Owens, you know that where her lunacy is going to go. Where's their stupid explanation? I'm spending way too long on this. Way too long looking for their stinking explanation. My God, they post like animals. They're just retweeting. They just retweet a lot. And it's like retard finder. Okay. They post a lot. For those of you who thought that they don't deny that it was there, that they were not. They don't claim to be hacked. They admit it. They claim that they have an excuse for why that happened. Ian Carroll, him I have questions about. Well, this guy has a real Israel derangement syndrome thing. Make Israel great again. There we go. Cernovich is obviously not too happy about this whole thing. We are going to talk about the Make Iran Great Again. We're going to get there. We're going to talk about it. Oh my God, this is taking so long. All right. Well, effectively, I can't. I'm losing patience. I'm bored with their timeline. Well, there goes this. I know there's a way to find it faster. See here, they're actually making a joke about it. Clicks are down, so thinking of changing our Facebook to just Democrat posts from now on. Thoughts where they're trying to make a joke about it. Just unfollowed Hodgetwins. I think they're trying to bury it. That's why they didn't put it on top. What they wrote is that someone who is a social media content producer for them is the one. Oh, here it is. Okay, finally. God. If you all didn't already see, we're getting dragged because of our Facebook account post. We post our personal takes on X and have a social media employee that posts on Facebook because we don't have time. There's two of them. There's two of them. They don't have time. But we weren't checking before they were posted. So why is anyone following you on Facebook? What the heck is that? Why is some of the posts on Facebook were written with ChatGPT and did not match what we post on X. So we ended up looking like some retards. The posts were all public for everybody to see. We weren't hiding anything. We deleting those posts on our Facebook and taking accountability for being some dumb ends. We also some dumb bingers. And we're also hiring a new social media person for anyone looking for a job. By the way, we are still anti-war, Keith and Kevin. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is pretty lame. This is a pretty lame explanation. So then why is anyone following you on Facebook? And just because you're saying now that, you know, the side you want to take is the anti-war side, so you're basically saying this is the side we're on. And if the more popular side, I can promise you this, if the more popular side, and this is why, to me, I'm sorry, I think I'm going to call these guys grifters. And the reason I'm calling them grifters is because if they saw that they were getting dragged for being anti-war, and that the more what they felt is the more popular position would have been to be, you know, jumping on board with the bombing, then they would have claimed that this was done by some social media employee and that they write their personal stuff on Facebook. I'm sorry, that's hot garbage. That's hot garbage. And at what point are you gonna? How much of your posts here are done by a social media employee? You think that social media employee only does Facebook? Really? That's all they do? That's all they do? What are you following even at this certain point? So yeah, I have a very hard time. This to me, I was just like, okay, look, I kind of like their content sometimes, but this is humiliating. So no, they're not. They were not hacked. They're admitting that it was someone who they paid to post content for them. If you're paying someone to post content for you, then you're basically just some propaganda machine. You're not even expressing your own opinion. I don't know what you think about it. I know what some social media personnel of yours thinks you think about it. That's stupid to me. I don't know why. That's grifting. To me, this is just complete and total grifting. So yeah, sorry. I'm done with them. Here's another explanation. For people that don't know what happened, I said Trump and Israel joined forces and bombed Iran. Great job. Then at the same time, X were like, F this war. We ain't dying for Israel. Then Loomer immediately found it and did her little thing like she does. And they're laughing about it as if like that's like something that's a joke. It's like, that's not a joke. She owned you. She busted you. And look, I don't really love everything about. I'm feeling like I'm very frustrated because I feel like I don't really love anything about anyone today. Okay? I feel as if I don't even know who I can trust as far as a voice of sanity. Because no matter which chat I'm in, I feel as if I'm with people who at certain points I'm like, yeah, we're all on the same page on this, that this is what, is healthy American perspective. And then I go into these chats and with people who I think are like-minded, and I feel as if no one's exactly where I'm at. I feel as if where I'm at here just feels like so obvious and normal and natural, and at the same time, I feel like I'm very alone. I feel very alone. I'm going to express to you. So before I go any further, I'm going to go bold here. It's going bold. See? Bold. I express to you my opinion about this. And it's open to change if someone can talk me down on it. And if it does change, I'll tell you why it is that it's changing. Okay? So I'm going to just break down for you before we go any further into dissecting what is happening amongst MAGA. I'm going to share with you what my perspective is, which is very similar to what it's pretty much the same as what I was saying all last week, just updated based on events of the weekend. So first and foremost, I think it would have been best for everyone involved if Israel could have handled this whole deactivating Iranian nukes on their own and keep America's hands clean. That would have been for the best. That would have been ideal. And I know that Bibi made claims that he could do it. And I do not know if the reason that he made those claims was part of some coordinated thing with Trump, or if it was something that, like they'll get for strategically, tactically, that it enhances the United States' ability to bomb the bunkers if the Iranians thought that it's going to be some ground operation from Israel rather than an airstrike from a bunker buster. If we watch the actual 4-minute video from Trump, where he's talking about what the whole plan was, what went down, and he says how they worked together with Bibi and Israel to get this thing done. So he had his 4-minute statement, and I'm going to play it for you now. And he basically makes it as if the entire thing we've been seeing all along till now was kind of a little bit of a psyop, which would make sense. I don't even have a problem with him strategically if it's for military purposes. I do not have a problem with Trump lying to us about like what is going on. I think sometimes it's probably necessary because he's not simply talking to us. The messaging he gives to us resonates throughout the globe. So if he tells us that he's going to be doing ABC and then militarily, and that's for a military purpose that he's doing that, I'm fine with that. As much as we all feel like we need to know, the same way there are certain things that are top secret, I can understand that sometimes part of his role as commander-in-chief is to be somewhat deceptive. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with any commander-in-chief doing that. And to prove that point, that I'm consistent in this, to prove my point on this, where I say that it's sometimes okay for the president to lie to the American public, I have said since I started this show that I am of the opinion that we never killed Osama bin Laden, and that Barack Obama lied to us about that in order to help give us a sense of closure. I could be right on that. I could be wrong on that. But every time I've talked about it, I've said, assuming I'm correct in that assumption, which is purely an assumption based on putting together this factor, this factor, this factor, the body's not there, the whole thing, the whole stage thing where it looks very staged when they're sitting there in the Situation Room watching it unfold. Everything about it just felt like a play to me, not at all legitimate. And then all of a sudden the body is thrown overseas. Everything about it just, I was like, of course, always the body is gone. The body's never there. Never there. So I was like, okay, let's assume if you're Barack Obama and you learn that he died after we've been hunting him for 10 years and you learn he died, what's the best thing for America? Best thing for America is to think we killed him. Imagine he died of natural causes or someone else killed him in his own little chieftainship there. And see if he slipped on a rock and cracked his head open and died. So does America get closure from that? No. What's much better is stage like we got him. Lie to us. And that's good. That's for the well-being and benefit of America. So that my point, the reason I'm saying this is, you all know I can't stand Barack Obama. I think he was the divider in chief. He's arguably the worst factor, the worst American in the last century. He's definitely top 10 as far as the damage he's caused this country. And even though I was, of the opinion, and still kind of the opinion that he lied to us about that, I think that was a good lie. I think it was a good lie to tell us. Sometimes it's better for our own good for the president to not be straightforward with us. And it seems to me as I watch this over here that Trump is kind of giving a little wink to the fact that he may have been misleading us with some of the stuff that we were seeing from him over the last week or so when he was saying, I'm going to give Iran 2 weeks, and Israel and Bibi coming out and saying, don't worry, we got this, we'll take it, we can get it done. And Trump saying, we're not going to be doing this. And then the next thing you know, they fly in there. If that made it 1% safer for the people who are flying over and using the bunker busters, I say to you, God bless you. Smartest move in the world. Why give them any possible, even a tiny drop of added risk? If that helped our Air Force to deliver those bombs properly at all, more effectively, more safely, in any way, shape, or form, I say you should 100% lie to us 1,000 times. Save American lives, American troops, 100%. 100%. So here he is when he made his announcement. Get this out of the way. Get this out. Twins the new Milli Vanilli. Simple fact is U.S. bombed those facilities because they were in the last targets. Their last targets beyond Israel's operational capability, not in U.S. interest not to. Yep. Make love, not war, beaches. Shechiano and Baruch HaGomel, I'm a hard right Zionist. I know Rameir Kahana personally. I've never heard a single Jew say Israel first. I never do. Let's get this started for good logic. Thank you so much. I'm getting sick and effing tired of having to see so many folks with the malady known as Jews on the brain in communities I'm a part of. Yeah, it gets annoying. If this escalates into a ground war, MAGA will be broken. No new wars are a major part of MAGA. Democrats can regain the anti-war part of MAGA. Possibly. I don't think it'd be that easy, but possibly. Well, I'll tell you this much. If we split into 4 parties, that would probably be good too.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before.
That part there, to me, is saying all the messaging we sent out to the public was part of working as a team. Israel taking over their air skies strategically, I think that refers to messaging. I think it refers to tactically. I think in every way, I think when you're saying that, as no team has ever worked before, what that means is we were working hand in glove with them. We knew what areas they were going, and we helped perhaps giving them, what our intel was telling us about Iran in order to facilitate the ability of the Israelis to, knock out any of their air defense. And that Trump wanted these facilities taken down.
And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight.
That's true.
Not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank you.
So there you go. That was our fearless commander-in-chief. And nice short statement there. Now, I promised I was going to give you my perspective on this whole thing. I'll tell you right now that my take is I very much am in agreement with President Trump that you cannot allow Iran to have a bomb. You can't. And I can hear all the explanations about how they can't do it, or they're not really doing it, or no one's saying that they were getting ready for a bomb, and what happened with Tulsi Gabbard saying they're not making a bomb. The bottom line is this, or the other one, which I heard a lot of, is, well, Bibi's been lying to us for 30 years, telling us that they're 6 weeks, 2 months, a year or two away from having a nuclear bomb. And he's been lying and lying and lying. So let's assume that Bibi is lying. As I think I've said here on this show, that I think that he's basically going to ask for whatever he can get from America, much as everyone else who comes to America is going to ask whatever he can get. And perhaps he might overstate what his intelligence is telling us. I don't know that we can necessarily trust him implicitly. You know, you can. The constant refrain applies to everyone, whether it's Israel, the EU, or any other countries, or even your own intel, I guess, is trust but verify, when you're talking to your allies. So let's assume that you want to say, no, I don't trust at all. I think he's full of crap because of all these different things. Okay, so let's discount everything Bibi has ever said. What we do know is what Iran has said. And Iran has said that they've enriched uranium to 60%. Now, it's very possible that, as many people will try to point out, they were bluffing. They were bluffing about that because they wanted to try and extort money from the Biden regime. And this is part of what I was talking about yesterday when I was on the Spaces with Diligent and some other America First people, and definitely would identify as being MAGA. I said, let's assume that maybe they were bluffing, but they put themselves in a position to be able to do it, and they're the ones who made the claims. So if someone comes running up saying, I've got a bomb, and they're a lunatic, and they put themselves in a position to actually have a bomb, do you really want to take a chance that they're bluffing? Maybe they're not. There's a reason they're getting paid. The reason they're getting paid is because people were like, yeah, they really could have a bomb here. And what is really untenable is someone who's a lunatic who has been sponsoring terror across the globe in every way possible, trying to harm civilians in the name of theology. That's an untenable situation to give them a weapon, to enable them to have a weapon which has a destruction level of an atomic bomb. It just doesn't. You have to just sort of recognize that this is not like Russia, where we have a whole balance of power thing. These are people who are follow the dictates of their theology, and they're basically telling us that we can have a bomb pretty much whenever we want. And that's what they said. They announced that in 2021. Again, do I think it's very possible they were exaggerating for the purposes of trying to extort money from the Biden administration? 100%. It's definitely possible. But the reason it worked is because every military intelligence agency was like, they really might not be bluffing. They really could have a bomb. So, yeah, if that's a very, very terrifying thing from an agency which has been all too happy to engage in terrorism by proxy, whether they're loading up the Gazans or loading up the Houthis in Libya, in Beirut. And here's the thing, we've seen that they are very happy to destroy civilians. That's what they seem to think that's success. Success is we killed a bunch of civilians. That's lunacy. And someone who's a lunatic, you cannot allow them to be sufficiently empowered that they can carry out the destruction of a nuclear bomb. That's ridiculous. So that to me, I totally agree with the notion of taking out the facilities. It's the least loss of Iranian life, because I'm not looking to just see Iranians get killed. I don't care if they're Persian or Arabs. I don't care. I don't want to see people die needlessly. So you're taking out a strategic site, and that's the objective. We'll talk a little bit about whether or not they did it. I know that Viva has been questioning whether or not they succeeded in taking it out, and we'll talk about that. But I think that is the...
Good evening. I'm Lisa Carter. A new skate park just opened at the White House, and President Donald Trump is stealing the show. Here's the story.
Look at that.
It's a historic day at 1600 Pennsylvania.
So you can't allow them to have that type of capacity. At the same time, I think that regime change is kind of crazy. I think regime change and worrying about regime change is astonishingly foolish. It's so short-sighted because in order to engage in something like that, where you're trying to stop regime change, you're trying to stop someone from having power, you need to have what is a surefire, definitive answer for what is going to happen once you get rid of Khamenei. And there are so many variables which make it beyond our control. And indeed, even when it wasn't beyond our control, when we succeeded in replacing guy A with guy B, every time guy B has turned around within a short span has been much worse than guy A, particularly in the Middle East. Frankly, we have a pretty poor track record in South America, in Africa, every place we've ever tried doing it. It's been bad. It's been bad, and it's been more badness. So, but the Middle East, we've never found the right party. Never. So why should we assume that the next party we're going to try and get in there, even if we succeed in getting that guy in, which we don't know that we would, but even if we succeed in getting that guy in, that we're not going to be dreading that the same way Bibi Netanyahu dreads and regrets that he helped prop up Hamas. You know, Israel doesn't seem to be much better at the regime change game than we are. Bibi hated the PLO. He hated the entities that were there. He hated Hezbollah. Hamas. So let's replace him with Hamas. Hamas is much worse. So what are we doing here? So you think that you're going to be able to replace this entity and teach him a lesson? Well, the guy who's waiting in the wings is younger and usually more lethal and more competent. So trust me, I agree with you that the Ayatollah is a lunatic and he's a terrible human being. He's a disaster. There's no redeeming from a Western perspective. Certainly, there's no redeeming element to Khamenei. But you have to know that the person who's replacing him is going to be someone who you're not going to be dreading for the rest of your life. And frankly, I think that we have no way of knowing that. And that's why I'm a very big opponent of the idea of regime change. And I don't want to see Americans in harm's way. I don't want to see that we have I don't want to have concerns about I don't want to be investing the money in it. None of there's you can't you'll have a very hard time ever selling me that that's a good plan. It's not a plan. It's not anything that's good as far as I can tell. It's just bad and more bad. So I'm very against the whole regime change thing, and that makes me have questions. That leaves me with questions with respect to, well, that leaves me with questions about Trump calling for regime change, which he was. He was basically calling and saying we should be looking for regime change. We should be looking to have, he said, he threw out the notion of make Iran great again. We can go through his Truth Social posts here. Says here, it's not politically correct. Yikes. It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? MAGA. This has made a lot of people on the right freak out. Freak out. Now, this is not him saying he's going to engage in regime change. This is him sort of weighing in, but his words have weight. And obviously people, I when I see something like this from Donald Trump, I sort of look at it as him floating it out there. He wants to see how the public reacts to this, because this is how he sticks his toe in the water from what I've seen. My observations are he likes to stick his toe in the water and just sort of get a feel for how that is going to be viewed. And So he's not saying he's going to do anything. He's just saying, why wouldn't they do it? He also claims that the damage to nuclear sites in Iran is said to be monumental. The hits were hard and accurate. Great skill was shown by military. Thank you. But there's questions about that. And a lot of people are very bothered by this post that he dropped. And let's get to his Thomas Massie thing. Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky is not MAGA, even though he likes to say he is. Actually, MAGA doesn't want him, doesn't know him, doesn't respect him. He's a negative force who almost always votes no matter how good something may be. He's a simple-minded grandstander who thinks it's good politics for Iran to have the highest level nuclear weapon while at the same time yelling death to America at every chance they get. Iran has killed and maimed thousands of Americans and even took over the American embassy in Tehran under the Carter administration. We had a spectacular military success yesterday, taking the bomb right out of their hands, and they would use it if they could. But as usual, and despite all the praise and accolades received, this lightweight congressman is against what was so brilliantly achieved last night in Iran. Massie is weak, ineffective, and votes no on virtually everything put before him, Rand Paul Jr., no matter how good something may be. He's disrespectful to our great military and all that they stand for, not even acknowledging their brilliance and bravery in yesterday's attack, which was a total and complete win. Massie should drop his fake act and start putting America first, but he doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't have a clue. He'll undoubtedly vote against the great big beautiful bill, even though non-passage means a 68% tax increase for everybody and many things far worse than that. MAGA should drop this pathetic loser, Tom Massie, like the plague. The good news is that we will have a wonderful American patriot running against him in the Republican primary, and I'll be out in Kentucky campaigning really hard. MAGA is not about lazy, grandstanding, non-productive politicians, of which Thomas Massie is definitely one. Thank you to our incredible military for the amazing job they did last night. It was really special. Make America great again. See, this there's no reason for. I don't like this. I agree that Massie has made the wrong call here, because a lot of people who are saying no new wars, no new wars, no new wars, they think that as soon as we engage in a military strike, as soon as anything like that happens, that is now a disaster, which is now we're now at war. That's what a lot of people seem to be acting. A lot of people is like, well, congratulations. Well, great job starting World War III. And I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. How are you even claiming that? How many times have we seen presidents strike over and over and over again? Do you buy it? Do you buy any of this? That's like, oh yeah, this is totally like a real concern that we have to have, that as soon as America hits someone with a bomb, all of a sudden we're at war with them. Well, I'm here to tell you that's certainly not the case.
Today, I authorized 2 operations in Iraq. Targeted airstrikes to protect our American personnel. Last night, on my orders, America's armed forces began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria.
Do you remember going to war with Syria? I don't remember going to war with Syria. Do you remember going to war with Syria? I don't know. Somehow I missed the Syrian war. When was our Syrian war? Did I miss that? Well, we attacked them. Obviously, we're going to be at war with them. No, not at all. This happens all the time.
Today, at my direction, the United States launched a targeted operation against that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan.
Oh, remember the Pakistani war? You remember that one? After he launched this thing? No, you don't remember that because it wasn't a war. It wasn't a war. So all this notion that like, oh, congratulations, we're now at war is ridiculous. Could this become a war? 100%. It definitely could. Anyone who tells you this is definitely not a war is basically just guessing and hoping that time ends up proving them right. There's no way to know what Iran will do. Iran could strike American military bases, which would then be a precursor to Trump responding. If he ends up harming American soldiers, God forbid, that would certainly, you would think, lead to a more lethal strike from America, and then you can see a ramping up of engagement of United States versus Iran. And then I would say then you could fairly call that a war. I am not someone who's so limited in my definition of war that I say it's not a war unless America declares war. I think that's ridiculous. We had the Korean War, we had the Vietnam War. Both of those were called police actions. There was never a formal declaration of war. We've had the Iraqi War. We haven't had a declaration of war in 80 years. And we've had all these different wars, and they were wars. We had our Gulf Wars. Afghani War. We've had wars. But in order to have a war, as far as what I would call having a war, as opposed to when you have over here a drone strike from Obama or Biden making a drone strike in Yemen, and no one talks about the Yemeni war. In order for it to be properly labeled a war, you have to have at least one of the following factors. You need to have American troops being fired on. Right? I mean, you would think, right? American troops in legitimate harm's way, sending troops in. You need some deployment beyond like a one and done. If in fact this was a strike against a superpower who's a legitimate threat to Americans, who could conceptually defeat America in a war. If there was a strike that was done on Russia, then I would say, okay, that's a war. But when you're talking about a country that's, basically, it's basically, three towels and a pile of sand and some, broken down Jeeps. Even if they're sitting on a pile of oil, I'm sorry. And no, I don't think Iran thinks for a second that they could compete militarily with America. They know that they can be glassed in a day. That's very different from Russia. It's very different from China. So, yeah, if we send troops in and deploy troops in Iran, we're at war with Iran. If we pick a fight with someone who actually has a realistic chance of competing with us militarily, we're in a war. But to just start labeling like, oh my gosh, we're in a war, and all these ridiculous geopolitical pundits who basically look as if they sound as if they woke up 10 minutes ago and were thoroughly unaware that every president going back to Carter has engaged in various types of strikes or drone strikes without it turning into a war. You know how many strikes this guy over here dropped during his presidency? 375, according to Grok. 375. So it's like, stop. Just stop. There's no reason to be premature. There's no reason to be running around like Chicken Little, where you got like Dave Smith running around, be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, he promised no new wars. Now we're at war with Iran. Like, you sound like a Democrat. That's how a Democrat would frame it. You have to engage in hyperbole to try and pretend. Now, like I said, it could become a war. But if you have to engage in hyperbole to pretend that we are at war right now, as if there's some military deployment that Trump is in the middle of sending our troops off to Tehran right now, is ridiculous. So yeah, we're not at war. And to me, if you see people who are talking as if we are at war, that is grifting. They want to get your engagement. Why would someone engage in hyperbole? The reason they lie to you is because they are trying to get your emotions, or get the emotions of others who are similarly situated to you politically, and get them all riled up. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Trump's taking us to war. I pray we don't end up in a war with Iran. I certainly don't want him to deploy troops. I don't want to see a regime change. I don't want us taking any further steps here. I can understand that if, God forbid, Khamenei is stupid enough to engage militarily with the United States and some bases in the area, or takes other steps by sending folks out to, attack Americans in other ways, or God forbid takes hostages or something of that nature, that could be a precursor to an Iranian war. So I don't want to, no one should ever take away from this. I'm saying it's impossible that we're going to be at war. We are currently not at war. We killed Soleimani. That did not end up in a war. Killed Baghdadi, did not end up in causing a war. I'm hopeful that taking out nuclear facilities will also not end up leading to a war. And if it does become a war, I'll say, well, okay, I guess this led to a war. But for anyone to say that it's definitely leading to a war, they're grifters. These people do not care about America. They don't care about you. They don't care about Trump. They care about their own pocketbook. They care about their engagement. They care about having you hit click. That's what it's about. They just want you to click. They want to get you all excited and, oh my gosh, and here we go, and I can't believe this. And it's just a matter of getting clicks. Because if you're not out for getting clicks, then you're either an idiot, in which case you're wasting people's times, or you're lying. That you know the truth and you recognize that, okay, if I engage in hyperbole this way, I'll get more people to retweet me. I'll get more likes. I'll get whatever. I'll get more follows. And then I'll have a bigger account. And then I can have some subscription stuff. And then I can have people. And then I can have content that people will pay for. And then I'll get advertising dollars and all this other stuff. All this other stuff. Because I'm telling you right now, it's far more popular to do that. It's far more popular to do that. And I'm very bothered by seeing people whose content I enjoy or have enjoyed consuming playing into this. I'm very, very bothered by it because it's disappointing. There's no point to it. You're better than that. It's like make money the real way. Go out there and create real content. Help fix the problem that we don't have truth in our media. Don't become the new alternative media that is then poisoned because you want to get your clicks. Then you're no different from anyone else. You're no different from legacy media. You're just the new kid on the block who's popular because he's the new kid on the block. But that sort of content is hot garbage. It's very, very aggravating. I got a lot more on this. Just because I have boxes of IKEA bookshelves and cases of books doesn't mean I'm intending to build a home library. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. He actually wrote this before I said it. It's like if you're enriching the uranium beyond, well beyond normal civilian use, I gotta think you have an objective for it. You're burying it deep underground. I gotta think you got an objective for it. Democrats talk for years about dealing with Iran's nuclear threat. Once again, Trump did what they promised and couldn't deliver. Well said, Adam. In fact, on that very point.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
So there you go. There's Hillary making that statement. And here's Barack.
So for all the Democrats and liberals that support Iran and hate Israel, I just want to show y'all something that Barack Obama said when he was president. Maybe if y'all hear it from him, maybe it'll help make sense to y'all.
Because a nuclear Iran is a threat to our national security, and it's a threat to Israel's national security. We cannot afford to have a nuclear arms race in the most volatile region of the world. Iran's a state sponsor of terrorism, and for them to be able to provide nuclear technology to non-state actors, that's unacceptable. And they have said that.
And by the way, the point that he's making here, which is a point that a lot of people seem to have forgotten about altogether, when they talk about, well, they couldn't deliver the bomb, they wouldn't be able to fire it, and how would they fire it? And it has to be plutonium enriched, and even if they had this, I saw this guy who was breaking down scientifically that in order to deliver it, you need to have the missile capacity, and that has to be lighter weight. So really, they're 4 years away at least. And Dave Smith was sharing this out, and it sounded very technical and very accurate, and it completely ignored the possibility that Barack Obama laid out right there, which is that, hey, they can just give it to some actor and have him leave it on a train. It's not that it's not that impossible to God forbid some town in America or a city in America. It's not that hard. So yeah, don't start telling me that the reason we should feel comfortable that even if they managed to create a bomb, that they would never be able to deliver it here for 1 million years, which is what this scientist was saying. And he clearly understands more about the science than I do. That the delivery, that I have to rely that they're not going to be able to find somebody to carry it across the Mexican border. To me, that's crazy. Or find some way to sneak into one of our ally states. To me, that's crazy. That's a crazy thing. And this is where I'm talking about, where I see like a whole bunch of people who are libertarians, and I know Liberty Lockpad is going to be on Tuesday, is a libertarian, obviously, that it's so sticking your head in the sand. It is so deeply sticking your head in the sand that you have no idea that someone is literally shoving a bomb up your sphincter. It's like your head is so deeply nestled in with your bent over there that you have no idea that you're just saying, oh, okay, you could just shove anything you want up there. We're totally fine. We're totally fine. It's so stupid, so short-sighted, so blinding. It's like, what is wrong with you? So, yeah, I'm all with you. I don't want the regime change. I don't want America going in there. I love the fact that Trump basically said, don't you dare harm any Americans, because there's a lot more people, a lot more damage we can do, and it'll be very easy for us to do a lot of damage to you, which is the proper message he should be giving to Iran. And the best way to deal with someone from the Middle East is when they feel they're in a position of weakness rather than a position of strength. So it makes perfect sense. It might make less sense to a Westerner that they're like, well, why would you expect them to react kindly after you just bombed them? But it's not, because they're not you. They're not you. The American mentality, the West, it's not just American, it's the European mentality also, is that like, well, I have to get my, unless I punch you back just as hard, in that case, I'm looking like the wimp. That's not the Middle Eastern mentality. Middle Eastern mentality is you deal from a position of strength and recognize the strength, and if you're in a position of weakness, recognize your weakness. Now, you still need to save face, which is why what happened after Soleimani was that Trump allowed them to hit a facility that was empty so that they could say, aha, we got the last punch in on them. So this way they don't get deposed. And perhaps he might even be coordinating something like that with Khomeini right now. If we hear over the next 2-3 days about Iran bombing some American base and that there's no loss of American lives at all, I'll tell you right now, when you hear that story, know this. Khomeini contacted the DC and basically said, I need to hit a base. So give me one where I'm not going to kill anyone so you don't wipe out my entire country. But I need to hit a base. Because I think that's what happened after Soleimani. So, and then Trump said, okay, you got your last hit on us. Fortunately, no one was harmed. And if nothing further happens, then we're not going to be striking you anymore. And if you see something like that happen again, just know this. It's orchestrated. In order to, because you need to have them save some level of face. But if you have a Middle Eastern mindset, it's not that I have to get a similar level revenge, which is far more of a Western type of mindset. It's a matter of like, okay, what's the position of strength right now? It's a far more pragmatic approach. So this was the end of Obama's statement.
They want to see Israel wiped off the map. So the offers Iran a choice. They can take the diplomatic route and end their nuclear program, or they will have to face a united world and a United States president, me, who said we're not going to take any options off the table.
I don't know, bro. It just sounds an awful lot like what Donald Trump's saying right now, if you ask me, which comes off to me to make it seem as if y'all actually understand what we're saying and y'all are actually for what we're saying. Y'all just are against it because Donald Trump's the one initiating it now. Because Donald Trump's leading it and a Democrat like Barack Obama isn't leading it now. Y'all have an issue with it. That's just what it seemed like to me. I don't know.
So yeah, I definitely think it would have been ideal if Israel can get it done. Perhaps Israel basically was directed, perhaps Bibi was directed by Trump to go out there and say he's going to get it done because it made things easier for our military. I think that's very much a possibility. Or maybe they tried maybe he really thought he could do it, put together some plans, and he's like, okay, here are all the reasons why it's not feasible. Because Bibi did say like 2 days earlier, yeah, we think we can get done taking out their facilities. We should take a few minutes here to talk about whether or not they got them. And I know that Viva has basically been saying we didn't get them. Or at least speculating that we didn't get them. By the way, here's one last Democrat before I get to that. Here's one last Democrat who's basically saying the same thing.
Buying himself some time in some room. I was also in the Holy Land very recently. I think progressives underestimate how dangerous Iran is. Iran is not a normal country. Normal countries don't blind women because they showed some hair. They don't empower little gangs and proxies to surround a country and fire rockets and rape people. So Iran, the two things are clear. The what, they cannot have a bomb, and the why, because they say death to America, death to Israel, and death to all the Jews. One of those should offend you if you're progressives. At least one should offend you. And so the question, though, is the who and the how. Is Israel going to take out this nuclear capacity by dropping people there who blow it up, or is America going to take it out by dropping a bomb that blows it up? But the what and the why are clear, and I think progressives should get on board with that. We cannot have a nuclear-armed Iran. I was in the region. You were in the region. This is a very dangerous power that cannot get a nuclear weapon.
So then the question is, okay, did we actually take out their bombs or not? Now, Viva Fry put out there, said, I'm posting this Fox News segment in its entirety because I think it's going to age particularly badly in terms of what was actually destroyed in this airstrike. I'm also going to highlight the crap I've been taking merely by being not just reasonably skeptical, mildly educated from recent history. Quote, it's not a war, it's a military strike. Well, it's not a war. This, I think, is it's not a regime change. Well, again, there's a lot going forward. We don't know. It's necessary to take out Iran's nuclear weapons program. I didn't say nuclear weapons. You're not MAGA. You're a grifter. I've never said that about him. You're an anti-Semite. That's a joke. Iran is not Iraq. That's true. Iran is not Ukraine. I'm not out for I told you so in the future of the country in which I live, it depends on it. I just hope Trump hears and sees what's going on and reverses course because this is turning out to rhyme exactly with debacles of history past. So let's hear what they said here.
Earlier this morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth addressing the nation after the U.S. strikes on Iran.
Last night, on President Trump's orders, U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program.
National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin was in that room just a few moments ago. She has the very...
Now, it's interesting that he said to destroy or severely degrade, meaning they still might have some sort of capacity, according to Pete Hegseth.
Latest, Jen.
Todd, we received new details during a rare press briefing here at the Pentagon about last night's operation targeting those 3 main nuclear sites. 125 U.S. military aircraft were involved. 7 B-2 bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri shortly after 12:01 a.m. Saturday, flying east 18 hours before hitting their target, refueling along the way. They were escorted by F-22 and F-35 fourth and fifth generation stealth fighters once inside Iran. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kame, described the details at approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2:10 a.m. Iran time. The lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. A total of 14 massive ordnance penetrators dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern time. That, according to General Dan Kame. 12 massive ordnance penetrator bunker buster bombs were dropped at the underground mountain uranium enrichment complex at Fordo. The Pentagon does not yet know whether the sites were destroyed, pending a complete bomb damage assessment. What we can say is that the Iranians did not see the B-2s coming. In fact, General Kane said...
And that explains why they would be lying to us. Why they'd be lying to us and saying Israel's going to go in there and do their own thing.
That they were unaware of any shots fired at the package. That's the B-2 package on the way out. Iran's fighter jets did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see the U.S. warplanes throughout the mission. That is truly extraordinary.
And that ties into why this happened now. And I would just want to pause and share with you this. The logic behind doing this now has both political and military bases behind it. The political basis is it's an odd number a year, and relatively, we're not even at the midpoint of an odd number a year, which means that it's less likely to affect midterm elections. This is something which is likely to be forgotten completely by the next presidential election, or certainly in the back heap, assuming this doesn't escalate into a full drawn-out war, that this is likely that it's something that's going to be something that could be a feather in their cap without it being something that is, pressing in the news in November 2028. Also, that's from a political perspective. Strategically, well, we have Israel just cleared out the entire Iranian air defense. So you're able to actually get access to it. So in that sense, and then the last timing point is what they've been telling us, if you believe what they're telling us, which is that, and if you question whether you believe what they're telling us on this element, I understand that, given the history that like right now it's so pressing, is you want to tell me you don't trust Bibi? Okay, I get that. You don't trust Bibi, but that's the reason to do it now. Even if Bibi was lying, and I don't know that he's telling the truth. I don't know that he's lying. I do know that he seemed to have been certainly engaging in hyperbole in the past as to how close they were. But given their own admissions that they made in 2021, given the timing politically, given the timing tactically, that Iran's air defense has been crippled by Israel, it all adds up. Get it done now. It all adds up. Almost as good as Operation Praying Mantis. Reagan was super cool. He was. As an Army wife, 3 deployments later, I support the B-2 option. Let's keep our boots out of Iran. Amen. POTUS said up to 2 weeks. Check the footage. USA is land of my birth. Israel, land of my faith. Indeed. Iran would sell the tech to North Korea. They had delivery ready. They also used to trade with Syria. They could trade it for oil. They could give North Korea a ton of oil in exchange for a delivery system from North Korea. Same time, never let a DNC bot condone bad behavior. Amen. Oh, fun fact from the Iran hostage crisis 79 changed my 9-year-old life. I became a news junkie. It helped me get started my career of international logistics. B-2 message delivery is fine. 1978, Iran was good. Yeah, they were. How easy was it for Ukraine to sneak in drones to Russia? Iran does not need ICBM to get it to target. Yep. Oh my God, Lynn, hitting me. God bless you, Lynn. Hitting me with just a $100 rant saying thanks. You're very welcome. Thank you for the very generous rant. I really very much appreciate it. Thank you. Bob Loves Alaska says the bombs were dropped only on the facilities that were being used to enrich materials for nuclear bombs. No reports of injuries, deaths, or anyone being hurt. I'm okay with that. Yeah. It was a successful strike. Zelen says, I'm much more worried about them using a dirty bomb on something like Wall Street, where it could cause major problems for years and huge rise in cancer in New York. It's a fair concern. Also saying, I wasn't also worried about them getting a bomb as they couldn't get to us via plane like others seem to look at. But remember, they aren't scared to do and couldn't manually deploy it in a city. Yeah. Joe, I don't agree with the regime change, but something we need to recognize is 2023 poll, 154,000 people in Iran, 80% doesn't want their government. More people there also saying they're Muslim. Look, what happens. I'm simply saying I don't think we should be part of the regime change. We shouldn't be taking a role in it. And I don't know why it is that he's advocating for something like that. It just doesn't seem. I get you don't like him. And there's all this speculation. This came up in the space I was in today, where there was a conversation about the fact that Iran has, on multiple occasions, tried to take out Trump. Now, people who are the doves of MAGA, as opposed to the more hawkish of MAGA, and I consider myself really in between. And I feel like my position, this in between position of saying no regime change, yes to a quick incursion to get rid of their nuke capabilities. I look at that as being the most America First perspective. It is the most America First perspective, where we're not blinding ourselves to the realities of massive dangers that could be just around the bend without entangling ourselves for lengthy periods of time with foreign wars. Israel wants to fight, then let Israel fight them. If they feel there's more fighting they need to do, or strike backs and stuff like that, okay, do what you gotta do. But the notion that we should be embroiled there, no. I'm not down with that. Now the question is, did we really hit them? Viva seems to speculate that maybe we didn't. I don't know. Maybe we didn't. I'm sure of one thing. I'm pretty sure this set them back a considerable period of time. You would think. But some of the folks on the right, and I've heard a lot more of the term this today than I have in a while, of the term woke right. You might be unfamiliar with the term woke right. The term woke right, which was popularized by, I think, probably Jordan Peterson and Lindsey, not Lindsey Graham. You guys know who I'm talking about here. You know who I'm talking about. And I agree with you, Jacob Castro. We are not the world police. It's not a matter of protecting the world. It's a matter of being like, okay, these are people who are continually saying death to America who are about to have a nuclear bomb. And, the ability for them to just carry it across our border or get it in here somewhere, that's part of looking out for America. James Lindsay, that's his name. Thank you, DB Crazy. Yeah, James Lindsay. So they've been calling folks like Thomas Massie, folks like Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, they've been calling them woke right. Now, I agree with Robert Barnes, by the way. I read to you that True Social post with not on everything that Robert Barnes says about this conflict, but I definitely agree with him about this, where he says Massie will win easily and this will embarrass Trump. I think that Trump going after Massie was strategically a very poor move. A very poor move. Massie will win easily. And he's not someone, just because someone is opposing Trump's agenda doesn't mean that all of a sudden they have to go right square into the crosshairs where that's the guy we need to take out. I understand that Massie seems to be someone who is regularly in opposing Trump. I disagree with Massie on a lot of things, and I agree with him strongly in a lot of things, because he's your classic libertarian. Same with Rand Paul. I'm going to disagree with them on things. That doesn't mean that I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is like public enemy number one. You could sort of just say like, okay, you see it that way. That's a poor way of looking at it. You don't have to come across like some Democrat, like this Margaret Brennan from Face the Nation, who fortunately was embarrassed by Rubio today.
Are you saying
Oh, that's loud.
there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I think that question being asked on the media, that's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point in
weapon.
U.S.
No, it's not at all the key point. That's such a moronic question and it's stupid to label that the key point. That only once he orders it, that's the only time you should strike. At that point, it's too late to strike the military facility at that point, the nuclear facility at that point. Did you see the bombs in the air on their way to American airspace when you think it's such a stupid question? That he said that they should do that?
Intelligence assessment, you know
No,
that.
it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not
I know
been
that better
made.
than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But
You don't
I'm
know-
asking you
don't
whether
know
the
what you're
order
talking
was
about.
given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons, because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's a question. That's a question. That's a question of intent. And you know, in the intelligence assessment, that it was that Iran wanted to
Yeah, that's the point. Is the intent?
be a threshold
How do
state
you know
and
what the
use this
intelligence
leverage.
assessment says?
I'm
How do
talking
you
about
know what
the
the
public
intelligence assessment
March
says?
assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from
but
March.
that's also
if
an
an order
inaccurate
was
representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon.
Right.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They have everything they.
And again, I understand why people have been burnt out based on how Bush lied to us. And I'll say right now, Bush lied to us for the purpose of dragging us into a war. We are not in a war, and this is not, if Iraq had said we have weapons of mass destruction or we're building weapons of mass destruction, that would be similar. But they never said that. They never said that. Iraq never made that claim. I think that the comparisons to Iraq, and I mean no disrespect to you because I know a lot of people have been saying this today. I think the comparisons to Iraq are a little bit lazy. In the sense that with Iraq, we had zero evidence that they were working in that direction at all. Zero evidence. There was nothing. It was all just completely manufactured BS, as opposed to Iran's own admissions about where they're at, Iran's own steps that they have taken that no one disputes, that they tunneled 300 feet underground for their nuclear capacities. Iran's own statement about their enrichment levels. They made this bed. Iraq didn't make its own bed. Iraq was a bed that was created and erected by Donald Rumsfeld, Colin Powell, and George Bush. This is the bed that we're looking at here was built exclusively, not exclusively, but primarily by Khomeini and Iran and thrown out to the public. Now, I understand they had other purposes in creating that bed, as if like their objective of extorting money out of us is something that's admirable, that's laudable. They basically figured there's two possibilities. So now that we know that Iran did this, there's two possibilities. Either they were serious, in which case they're a danger, or they wanted the entire world to think that they're a danger, in which case Trump is effectively saying, okay, I believe you, boom. That's very different from we think that they're hiding WMD. It's not at all the same.
They need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Yes.
That's all we need to see.
Right. Well,
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all.
Yes, and no one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here.
No, you are
disputing it. And they were censured at the IAEA.
You are disputing it because you're saying unless you know that Khomeini said make it into a weapon, in that case we shouldn't be justified in eradicating and cutting their hands off from being able to actually make a weapon. You are disputing it. You're talking on both sides of your mouth.
For that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence that there was an order to weaponize, because
I don't think you have any intelligence.
You said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we have intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear weapon, and that's more than enough.
Okay.
Well done by Rubio. Can we just acknowledge that Trump calling this Operation Midnight Hammer is a badass name, way cooler than whatever Operations Biden and Obama. It's such a Trumpian name, right? Heisenberg saying, "Dear not the leader, please lead us in a Hebrew prayer for peace and safety for all people of the world." If I lead it in Hebrew, how is anyone going to be able to say it with me? No one's gonna be able to say it with me. But so I'll do it in English. I can do one in English. When I reference God, please understand that I mean that when I'm referring to this, I'm referring to the creator of all things, creator of matter, who created matter and then formed it into the very universe that you and I perceive. This is actually what I think about. This is what I think about in my prayers before I start my prayers. I'm addressing the God who created life in every form, created the world, everything that's in it, created life in all its forms, created humanity, and created me, and has been running the world throughout its existence and continues to run the world and shall continue to run the world, and always was, always is, and always will be. And it is to God that I pray that humanity can be spared from the horrors of war, and that God protects and blesses the United States of America from any of the devastation, destruction, or terrifying effects that ensue from the horrifying instruments of death that man has created. And then we should learn to live amongst each other with other peace and harmony. So, per the War Powers Act, POTUS has 48 hours to notify Congress of use of military force. Also needs approval for more than 60 days, 30 extra days for withdrawal. I'm guessing a few SF are busy. Probably true. All right, let's start talking a little bit more about the different perspectives from left and right and get into them a little bit more. Here's one woman, I don't know if you've ever seen her before. She's talking about what's a healthy way of looking at the threat that comes from fundamentalist Muslims.
Possibility for Islam to coexist in the West. Do you think that's feasible? I'm not talking about individual Muslims who are lovely and peaceful and all of the rest of the preface stuff that we have to say before we talk about this. But what are your views on Islam?
How's it going in the UK? Those are my views. Okay, you can't. They have different views than us. Their views are that Western civilization is corrupted and awful, and it doesn't follow their code of ethics. It doesn't work. You cannot say that you can coexist peacefully. What's happening in the UK is the greatest example. What's happening in Europe? There's a European crisis going on right now. Okay, they have different ideas of what freedom is. Their idea of freedom is not freedom whatsoever. And you brought up Ian Kiersey, and
What happened to this woman? What happened to her?
I've followed her closely, and what she says is so important. She is someone that has defected from it and is telling you exactly what goes on. It's amazing.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Carter. A new skate park just opened at the White House.
Oh my gosh,
President
this thing
Donald
keeps
Trump
popping up on me.
Stealing the show. Here's
All
the
right,
story.
I have to share this.
It's a historic day at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
We're going to sidetrack
the
for
White
a
House
minute.
skate park is open, and President Trump.
This thing keeps popping open on me. I need to close it out once and for all. Okay, this was something I was thinking of opening with tonight. I ended up not opening with it, if you saw the beginning. But let me just share it, and then before I go back to laugh at how Candace Owens has changed so dramatically.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Carter. A new skate park just opened at the White House, and President Donald Trump is stealing the show. Here's the story.
It's a historic day at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The White House skate park is open, and President Trump has been here since dawn, dropping absolute hammers, skate tricks that have everyone buzzing.
He's been dropping hammers all day. Crowd stunned. Guy hasn't missed a trick since sunrise.
Trump caught on a hot mic today talking about the moment the 46th president showed up to skate the park today. Let's go to the audio.
I had no idea President Joe Biden was just another scooter fag. Why would anyone ride a scooter? It baffles me to no end.
The supreme leader of Iran made a surprise appearance at the White House skate park grand opening, and here's what President Trump had to say about it.
Can you believe it? Total fruit booter. Unbelievable. Now we know why Bibi bombed the hell out of them.
There you go. That's what I thought of opening with. I ended up not using it, but it keeps popping up on me. I don't know why. I'm in the middle of watching other videos. So I was like, I'm going to lose it if I don't share it with you. Let me get it out. So let's get back to Ken. Look how much this woman changed.
If you bring people that actually hate Western civilization to Western civilization, what they're just going to warm up to it and say, we'll coexist peacefully, even though everything you do sickens us.
Well, they will coexist peacefully until the demographic changes are enough that they know are the central doctrines of Islam compatible with our most foundational Western values? You couldn't have a clear answer, and it is no. Now, many Muslims might decide to ignore the endless stuff that's useless in their holy books, but when the demographic changes allow you to then implement further intrusions on the rest of us, it's going to happen. And there's 1400 years of history that suggests this.
Good luck, Europe. I don't see how Europe's going to get it back. I genuinely feel that they're done. People have asked me this question all the time, and I've looked at it and I've said, no, I think they're done. I don't see how they can get it back. I view America as the last stand for Western civilization. It's why it was so important for us to show a sign of support in Israel. They are our only allies in the Middle East.
Who is this woman? Who is this woman? Who is she?
The fact that it took us this long to take a strong stand for them is ridiculous.
The fact that it took us this long to show a strong stand for Israel is ridiculous, according to Candace Owens. This is her 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
right? So I lived with a Muslim girl. So this is not at all an attack against, peaceful Muslims. It's just a basic understanding that.
That's my thought also. That's my thought. She has a deep, deep hatred for Ben Shapiro. That's what I think it is. And it basically made her like, it turned her into this.
There is a community of people in the last, since October 7th, that absolutely cannot stand, trust anything with Israel, and that triggers them. Rank me the top 5 deranged syndromes. If number 1 is TDS, what's 2?
Number 2 is Israel.
I guarantee number 2 is Israel.
100%.
And by the way, most of you are in one of the 2 camps.
Yeah. If not both.
Yeah, some are in both.
Yeah.
Everybody on the right was happy when Qassem Soleimani, oh my God, that's my leader. That's my president. He's showing strength. But now, no. Why? Because there's Israel derangement syndrome. And guess what? You either have TDS or you have IDS. There is a community of people in the
IDS. Yep. It's a horrifying thing. It's a horrifying thing. And the question is, I think that some people have IDS more than they love America. Not everyone. Some people just hate Israel. But I think some people, when push comes to shove, their level of derangement, the same way that people who get TDS hate Trump more than they love America. And you see, we've seen some people have IDS that they hate Israel more than they love America. They just have a deep, I'm not going to speculate about why they hate Israel, but their hatred of Israel it runs very, very deep. And perhaps today we're really starting to see them come out in full force. And it feels almost as if like the battle lines in some degree is being formed. Now, again, I want to be crystal clear about this. I'm not talking about everyone who's against the bombing of Iran. I'm not saying that. There's different levels, and you sort of need to read for the nuances how people frame it. There are a lot of different levels. And the biggest mistake we can make is to say that everyone who's against bombing Iran, everyone who's against the bunker buster and Operation Midnight Hammer, that every one of them needs to be cast out and shunned is stupid and self-destructive. I don't have a problem with people having questions. I don't even have a problem with people saying that we shouldn't have done it. I'm okay with that. I do have where my personal line is when people are like, oh, it's totally fine for Iran to have nuclear weapons. If you tell me you don't trust the whole nuclear weapon thing, I'm like, okay, I think that's kind of naive on your part. But considering that they said it themselves, that's pretty. It's like, okay. But if you're telling me totally fine for them to have it, I have to be like, I don't how stupid. I mean, it's just insanity. It's insanity. Do you let your kids play? Would you let your 2-year-old play with an Uzi? You'd be like, this is pretty stupid. I'm not doing that. Joe, you're not being objective about this. Just be honest that you support it because this helps Israel. This is not America first. This does not help us in immigration. No more foreign wars and bringing manufacturing home. All right. Well, I've been very clear about where I'm coming from on this. I'm very clear about why it is about. I spent a half hour explaining to Barnes where I am on the state of Israel and why I feel so conflicted about the state of Israel. And why it is that the principal guiding force in my life, which is Torah, directs me to show undying support for America out of gratitude. And Torah mandates that we show gratitude. And no country has been nearly as beneficial to Jews in diaspora as United States of America. I've been America first. So the only time people start questioning whether or not I'm America first is on this topic, as if like, you know, these people assuming I cannot be objective. I've said I think that Bibi, I don't know that I trust him all the time. I have a lot of concerns about this, about the leadership of the state of Israel. I've also been very upfront that I have family living there, I have cousins living there, so I certainly want people living in Israel to be living healthy and happy. If you think that means so does that mean that if you have family in Italy, in Ireland, that you couldn't be objective if we were in a conflict with Italy or Ireland? See, I don't hear people questioning like motivations when it comes to any other country. So I want America to grow and be strong. I want us to have the healthiest society possible. Everything I've been saying in my message has been along that line. Anyone, you want to attack my ability to you want to say that I cannot be objective? I guess someone can make that claim. And it's sort of like it's an indefeatable counter. If I say, yeah, I can be objective, so you can be like, well, of course you're going to think that. It's almost like if I'm having an argument with someone, I say, well, you're just too immature, you can't possibly understand. And they're like, no, I do understand. I mean, I am immature. No, well, of course you're going to think that, but that's because you're too immature. You can't understand. So of course, how it's sort of like it's cutting out their legs to make it impossible for them to say anything back. So what you need to do is to argue effectively is say, all right, so just point out where I was mistaken. If you can point to something that you think I was mistaken, it's very possible anyone could be tainted from having perfect objectivity. So show me where my logic is failing. Tim Pool created the video Trump on a skateboard. Oh, did he? That's funny. Carlos Centenos Castro, God bless you. Thank you for the super chat. Much obliged. Where are we at? Did I hit my goal? I think we're very close on the goal. I think I'm very, very close on the goal. Oh, we are very close on the goal. Very, very close. I think I'm like, if I look over it, what happened? I think I need like 2 more. Because I had it. How many did I have here? I'm very, very close to my goal. All right. So, but I appreciate that, you basically, the way you framed this was that, you were just, I think John was trying to be constructive here. So, and I appreciate that. It could have just been like, other people would have framed it a lot more aggressively. Does the fact that countries have now offered Iran nuclear warheads change your mind on what we did yesterday? Has that happened? Have they given them to him? Let's assume that that's happened. Does that mean that we're in a worse position now as a result of this? I don't think so. I don't think so. Look at that. Oh, you guys are awesome. You guys are really awesome. Thank you. Brian, the Bryans are coming out to keep me here for another hour. Yeah, I think we got it. I think God bless you. God bless you guys. You're awesome. It's very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. All right, we're going to be here for another hour. Let's do this. Brazilian says, meanwhile, she hangs around with a no Muslim PDF. Her husband's friend, Andrew Tate, as she claims this, she stays silent on him. I don't know that he's a PDF. I don't know about that. I'm struggling a bit. I really hope you meet your goal. I did meet my goal. We're going to be here. I'm going to stay an extra hour. I still have a bunch of clips I wanted to go through, and I also plan on taking some calls. So I wanted to get in on the whole Owen Schroyer thing. The cat turd was putting out here an interesting thing, saying, I'm glad everybody's finally realizing a bunch of these so-called influencers who pretended to be on our side are complete and utter frauds. Doomsday red alert, end of the world scammers. Rich kids who never had a real job, experts on the military who never served in the military, and I'm an Army vet, clowns who can't even run their own accounts. This is definitely hitting on the Hodgetwins. And have other people post for them because they're too dumb to run their own business and they're playing both sides for cash, con artists and snake oil salesmen. Now you know why I never go to any events except for mine, which is just about playing music. Being someone who actually lived in the real world and worked a regular job for decades, I can smell BS from a mile away. I realized early on that I was among snakes. I'm so glad you can see who they are now. That is an upside, I guess. People start exposing themselves. I had 2 clips I wanted to watch also with you. So one of them is a little long. Maybe I'm going to pass up on this one or that one. Let me see what I got here. This.
Donald Trump tonight bombed 3 of Iran's top nuclear facilities, essentially wiping out the possibility of them possessing a nuclear weapon that they can use against us
Hopefully.
or our allies or anyone else in the world.
Hopefully.
Right now, these are the same people that chant death to America, and Candace Owens is really upset about it for some reason. A full payload of bombs were dropped, followed by now is the time for peace. Utterly deranged. Clearly, Candace has never been in a fist fight before because after you knock somebody out, you usually look down at the ground and go, you done? Let's be friends. Okay. Here's the thing. If I had raised $100 million Adelson gave him on GoFundMe, I'm assuming this is a Jewish person because that's the only fucking thing she talks about.
This guy's funny.
Maybe he would have kept his promises. Guess we'll never know. Speaking of keeping his promises, let's take a look at this one. This is a 16-minute fucking video of Donald Trump saying Iran will never have a fucking nuke. You can go to my ex if you want to watch it. Any fucking retard who's on the internet going, this isn't what I voted for, and voted for Donald Trump, yes, it is. Donald Trump has made it very clear for fucking over a decade, right, that he won't fuck around with radical Islam, right? He'll kill them. Soleimani, Baghdadi, Syria.
He also said over and over again, Iran can't have nukes.
He said, little rocket man, I have a bigger button than you. And you guys were like, yeah, nuke him if he talks shit. But as soon as some fucking dickhead who's like, hey, death to America, but also we hate the Jews too. You guys are like, you hate the Jews? Let's be friends. Like legit, like this is what it's all about, right? They hate Israel more than they love America, right? They will align with terrorists who chant death to America as long as those terrorists also chant death to Israel. So should I just send my tax return to Tel Aviv next year? You're not paying taxes, you dumb cunt. You're an OnlyFans girl, right? Like you are the political equivalent of an OnlyFans girl, and we know you motherfuckers don't pay taxes. Now, anybody who you see online that's screaming out World War III, right, you should probably take that with a grain of salt because Donald Trump has a long track record of blowing up terrorists without getting us into World War III. And the reason why we call these people the woke right is because they act exactly like the woke left. Climate change, we're all going to be dead in 10 years. Blow up some fucking Iranian nuclear facilities. Oh my God, your kids are going to go die for Israel. Shut the fuck up and take the W.
Shut up and take the W. It's pros and cons, Joe. And the pros of no more radical Muslims in charge of Iran far outweighs the cons. Talk about earth-shattering events for the better. Yeah. I agree with you. Agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Wholeheartedly. And yeah, one more lie I wanted to debunk here.
People don't know this, but the Muslim world didn't hate America until after Israel was created.
Really? Really?
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In 1788, when the United States was barely a country, right, it was having its sailors taken as slaves by the Barbary states.
Because I think Nick Fuentes is a classic guy who hates Israel more than he loves America.
The states of the Ottoman Empire in North Africa. Tripoli.
Shores of Tripoli.
Shores of Tripoli. Ships stopped. Its crews carried off into slavery. We estimate 1.5 million European and American slaves taken between 1750 and 1815. Jefferson and Adams went to their ambassador in London and said, why do you do this to us? The United States has never had a quarrel with the Muslim world of any kind. We weren't in the Crusades. We weren't in the war in Spain. Why do you do this to our people and our ships? Why do you plunder and enslave our people? And the ambassador said very plainly, Mr. Abdul Rahman said, because the Quran gives us permission to do so, because you are infidels. And that's our answer. And Jefferson said, well, in that case, I will send a navy which will crush your state, which he did. Islamic fundamentalism is not created by American democracy. It's a lie to say so. It's a masochistic lie. And it excuses those who are the real criminals, and it blames us for the attacks made upon.
There wasn't much of an Israel in 1800 when Jefferson became president. So, yeah, that's kind of hot garbage. All right, let's get into the whole woke right thing. This is a long video. I don't know if I'm going to watch the whole thing. This is a long video, but I thought this guy made some really great points in here. We'll see how much we're going to do. I happened to enjoy and watch this whole video, but I was watching it on double speed, and even then it felt like a little long, but
look, I have to do this video, and it might.
This is a conservative Israeli who's mad at the woke right.
Be a long one. You might turn it off right away. I don't care. I have to say what I have to say because I'm sick of watching what I'm seeing. Just this hypocrisy and the lies and the blood libel. All this new wave of MAGA, woke right. Honestly, I just don't think they're on the right anymore. They're absolutely progressive left. Just the fact that they speak in this whole language of oppressed, oppressor, this whole bullshit. They call Israel their enemy. They call Israel their enemy while they're on the internet talking about how happy they are to watch Tel Aviv be destroyed by IRGC missiles on civilian buildings and hospitals. And they call us their enemy. When was the last time a person like me made a video being happy that an American died of anything? We're sitting over here sick and tired of watching you guys being taken over by Islamists and progressive leftist communists. Literally sad to see. On the MAGA side, most Israelis literally on the MAGA side, on Trump's side, and you're calling us your enemy while you're laughing at every civilian building being hit by IRGC missiles. Do you see the hypocrisy? I'm just wondering. Hey, Dave Smith, do you not understand that your appeal to emotions doesn't work anymore? This isn't about emotions. Yes, I understand you don't want to go to another war. Yes, I understand you don't want American boots on the ground, but there are none. So why don't you talk about what is happening now instead of delegitimizing Israel for something that didn't even happen yet? This isn't WMD in Iraq. You were 8 years old. As you fucking said, you were 8 years old. You never fucking predicted anything. You were never right about anything. You're just looking at things in retrospect and taking the credit as if you're correct. Everybody knows that the Iraq war was shit. Everybody knows that it was a shit show. And by the way, when you talk about Netanyahu coming to your, and I hate Netanyahu. I fucking hate the guy. I hope he goes to jail for the rest of his life. But when you talk about him coming to Congress to lobby America to go into Iraq, that's not him doing it on his own. That's him being invited by your fucking government to talk your people into fucking doing it. He's your salesman. He's not your boss. You got it flipped upside down. We're your proxy. We don't own America. Yes, we lobby America. Of course we lobby America. Every fucking country lobbies America. America is the strongest fucking country in the world, and every other country wants to fucking lobby it. While Israel receives $3.8 billion in weapons coupons, not in cash, in weapons coupons to your military industrial complex, the only place where we can spend that $3.8 billion, and then we spend another $20 billion on top of that, it's basically a discount. You know, if I get an SMS from Zara, right? Come to our store and get 20% off. Zara is not funding me. When I come and buy clothes for 300 shekels or $300 minus 20%, you cannot flip that and say that Zara funds me. They don't fund me. They make sure that I come to their store to buy weapons. America. $3.8 billion is basically a discount of the other weapons that we buy, the other planes that we buy. Right? The $3.8 billion is actually mostly going to the Iron Dome missiles, which keep us out of war. Do you understand? America.
So, in other words, the Iron Dome, in case you're unaware, is what Israel uses to shoot down missiles that are coming to civilians. I've talked about it on this show here before. It's actually a pretty brilliant piece of American technology, where it's able to detect where a bomb is going to land, and if that area you program in which areas have civilians living in them. If it's going to end up hitting nowhere, then it doesn't react. If it's going to hit an area which is populated, it shoots the missile down in the sky. But it takes a lot of rockets when there's 4,000 rockets coming at you. You end up going through a lot of the missiles that are used to shoot them down, and all the missiles are provided for courtesy of the American military industrial complex.
If anything, funds Israel to stay out of war, not to get into war. Because the Iron Dome, while it is a blessing, it is also a curse. Because getting shot at from Gaza, 4,000 missiles in 2014, 4,000 missiles from Gaza, made us sit there and take it until we finally decided to go in and do something about it, and then we get blamed for it anyways. But that's neither that nor there. I want to continue on your hypocrisy, because you keep talking about the WMDs. You keep talking about the fact that everybody's lying to go to war, except you're not looking at this. Not only are you not looking at it correctly, because people have already pointed it out to you, including Kissen, right? In your debate on Piers Morgan, talk about Jews being overrepresented. So, Konstantin Kisin pointed out the fact, rightly so, that Israel is being surrounded by what Iran calls the ring of resistance. Israel calls it the ring of fire. Let me make something very fucking clear. While you sit there and talk about WMDs, when you went out to war with a country that's halfway across the world, we're going out to war with a country that's on our fucking border. There's a big difference. On our border. And not only on our border, but invaded us on October 7th. Hamas, admittedly, receives $100 million every year since like 1997 from the IRGC. Hezbollah is literally IRGC sitting on Israel's borders on the north. Houthis, admittedly, IRGC in Yemen. Hamas attacked us on the 7th of October. Before we could even count our bodies or even know who's dead, who's kidnapped, who's missing. On the 8th of October, Hezbollah decides, unprovoked, to send thousands of missiles into Israel. By the 20th of October, Houthis, who had nothing to do with us up until then, we've never had any conflicts, sends in missiles and drones on the 20th of October. Israel didn't even invade Gaza yet. Israel didn't even invade Gaza yet. We had 3 Iran proxies, pure proxies. No ifs, buts, nothing. These are Iran proxies, 3 of them, 3 attacking Israel with thousands of missiles, killing thousands of people, obviously Hamas, causing us to remove 100,000 people from the north, and the Houthis being a nuisance like a fucking cockroach that they are. This is all happening within 13 days of Hamas attacks. We didn't even invade Gaza yet. That's Iran. So when you say that we attacked Iran now a week ago as if it's the first time, are you fucking kidding me? Is this us lying about WMDs? Do we need to lie about WMDs to have a legitimate reason, a just war, to attack Iran, who has been for 40 years telling everybody that they're going to destroy us? And not
Anyway, I'm not going to watch the whole 13 minutes here, but that's his frustration. He's venting his frustration with the fact that Israel unflinchingly, or Israelis unflinchingly support American interests, and then you see so many folks who seem to have IDS. So, anyhow, I wanted to get into the last video I wanted to watch with y'all. I actually saw from someone who's not a known poster what I thought was the most logical take here. And so I saw from just a random dude on the internet, and I was like, well done. I gave him a follow just from this one post. Hey, Trump has built up a lot of goodwill. I've been there since the escalator. He's 90% doing what I wanted to do. I ain't leaving. That 10% of the time he misses, they're on huge things. He missed on COVID and the vax. I don't know if he's missed on this yet. Time will tell. I hope we're not dragged into a war. Which I think this to me is the perfect America First take. At this juncture, it's everyone wants to weigh in and say that they know what's going to happen. A large part of this is we're betting on Trump. Do you trust Trump or do you not trust Trump? And he's right 90% of the time. He's not flawless. And pray to God that he makes the right decisions with respect to this conflict and every conflict of any kind of serious import to this country. So it's a quick little prayer to God. And we have to hope that he's right. But at this point, it's way too, and certainly pray to God that we don't end up being dragged into a war. But I think that this is a very honest and reasonable take. I even jokingly said how we ever get followers. Because, like, you know, if you're going to give such an honest take, you know, that's not how you build followers. You don't build followers that way. You're supposed to be like taking a crazy step. I'm seeing people getting all loud in here. Oh, Lord. Yeah, you see, I'm not down with the whole, like, I'm really not down with the whole racism thing. I'm checking the ghetto and getting kind of irked. Kind of irked. Anyway, let me pull up the Owen Schroyer thing. Where was it? I had it here. A moment to find it. I told you when I started the show that pulling up Owen Schroyer might take me a minute. There it is. And this did inspire the question I have.
Is Matt
Speak softly and carry a big stick implies you're willing to use the stick. We don't live in a libertarian isolationist fantasy land. Either be the superpower or lose the status. Yep. You should watch T-Fat Electrician on Barbary Coast. He's great. The Fat Electrician is great. I'm a huge fan of his. We are not against Israel starting a war and forcing us to enter it. We're not forced to enter into it. We're not forced to enter into anything. And I'm certainly not talking about you, Trumpinator. It's not like I'm pointing a finger. One of the fingers I've been pointing are at certain personalities. There's no one here where I'm like, oh, this is where you're coming from. But there are some folks out there who certainly have IDS. Joe, I see the tracksuit, but no matching shoes. Of course not. That would be worth it to never hear about Iran's nuke program again. That's true. Joe, what happens if Iran launches 10,000 missiles at Israel at once? I don't know if they have the capacity to do that. God forbid. If they have launched, I mean, it takes time to launch, but it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I don't think that's America. You're asking me what I would say in that circumstance? I would say that I need to pray to God. I mean, Israel should do everything they can to defend themselves. And if they have to go in there and use their military to trounce Iran, they should. That's still not America's fight. If that's what you're asking me, that's still not America's fight. So, I assume that's what your question is. All right, let's get to Owen Schroer.
Is MAGA dead? Well, first, you have to understand what MAGA is in order to answer that question. So let's talk about the MAGA coalition that got Trump elected in the last election and won the House and the Senate. You had all types of different people in this populist, nationalist, common sense movement. You had people on the left, you had people on the right, you had people in the middle, you had your far right wing, you even had some of your far left wing, and then you had some individual bubbles like Tulsi Gabbard supporters, RFK Jr. supporters, you had Elon Musk fans. So it really was a populist, nationalist, common sense coalition. Now, bombing Iran definitely fractured it. There's no doubt about that. It is 100% fractured. And people can stick their nose in the air and say, you weren't real MAGA anyway. We don't need you. Well, actually,
I don't think World War III would happen. I don't think that any of these larger nations, I'll tell you right now, I think that most of the Muslim world was popping champagne, but for the fact they don't drink alcohol. But I think that they were partying and celebrating what happened on Saturday. I think Saudi Arabia was celebrating what happened on. I think no one in most of the Muslim countries, I think Egypt was celebrating. I think Turkey was celebrating. Most of the Muslim countries, how many of them came running to Iran's side? How many of them? You see Jordan go running to their side? No. So who's going to be taking their side? China and Russia? Maybe to but I don't think that they want to. Russia seems to have its hands full with Ukraine. China doesn't seem like they're going to China doesn't seem very quick to have their military enter anywhere. When was the last time a Chinese military did anything in the last century? So where's the World War III coming from? The EU is going to attack America over this? Where's it coming from? Russia seems to have their hands full, and the whole Russian-Muslim alliance was always in the UN for the purposes of just trying to. They would attack Israel for purposes of feeling like it would vex America. So, I don't think Russia really gives that much of a damn about Israel, one way or the other. Other than they feel like, oh, if we censure Israel, it makes America look bad, and that's part of the whole Russia-America competitiveness, try to make America look bad. So that's why I think Iran is a lot more friendless than people realize. Yeah, okay, Gazans will be, care about them. Yemen may. But there's no World War III happening. I don't see it happening. I mean, I'd be horrified if I were to be wrong. But Between Two Ferns used to be so much fun. It does look like it does. That was well done. All superpowers leaders have kids and hot wives. No. You don't think history will reflect on these times as World War III, regardless of what we're calling it now? I do not. No, I really don't. I think we're so far from World War III. I think everyone loves to scream, it's World War III, it's World War III. I think we're so far from that. God forbid.
You do. There's this thing called a political process where we have elections, and it was this coalition that allowed us to win the House, the Senate, and the White House. So actually, you do need it to win. The rules don't change just because you stick your nose in the air and say, oh, you're not real MAGA anywhere. Congratulations, you've taken over a movement that is now injured, wounded, barely walking. Now, Trump might be able to come out unscathed, and I'm not going to say that the MAGA movement is dead, but it's obviously fractured. Everybody can see that. And as far as the geopolitics and everything, post-strikes, we'll just have to wait and see. So I'm going to put that off for this conversation. But here's the problem. So we've got these real debates happening about domestic policy and mass deportations and the big, beautiful bill and spending, and we're handling domestic issues, and we're trying to get momentum going, and we're having problems with the Epstein list and all this stuff. And then out of nowhere, here comes the Middle East again. Out of nowhere, just like a hypersonic missile, out of nowhere, crashes into this. And yet again, American policy, America first politics is completely thrown off kilter by the Middle East.
And by the way, I'm totally down with what he's saying here. I want Trump now. Look, it's like, okay, we at the very least, do we know what damage was done to their nuclear program? No. At the very least, they've been seriously hampered, certainly you would think, for the balance of Trump's administration. At no less than that. So at this juncture, what I want to see is Trump to do everything he can to de-escalate. If it might include some saber rattling and some barking at Iran, but as far as any further involvement, like I said, sell Israel what they need and let them do what they need to do and say, Israel, Geg is into hate, which is German for go and be blessed. Go in good health. That's what they should do. That's what I want Trump to do at this point. Do what you need to do. We're dealing with fentanyl. We're dealing with illegal aliens. We're dealing with our own economy. We're dealing with that. You take care of what you need. Whatever you feel you need to do, go do that. We're done. You need the bunker busters from us. We gave you the bunker busters. Now we're out and tap out. That's what I want to see from America at this point. That's what I want to see from Donald Trump at this point. And hopefully, Iran has the good sense not to mess with any American bases or take any or try to impact America directly in any way, shape, or form. And that's what I want to see from right now going forward from America. Just fixate on taking care of American problems.
So it just comes out of nowhere. And now we're like already kind of like stunned and hazed, like what just happened? And then now we have Iran strikes. And now we're talking about regime change. And we're sitting here.
Yeah, I don't like the whole regime change thing. No. Certainly not for America to get involved in that. World War I didn't exist until the second. Before that, it was referred to as the Great War. This is true. It wasn't called World War I for 20 years. Yes, that's my point. No leaders hate life. Some do.
You're like,
think
well, wait a
fundamentalists
second.
do.
I don't like Iran. I'm not for Iran having nukes. But what happened to America?
Bizon says Putin isn't going to do anything about Israel. He said there are over 1 million Russians in Israel, and them their people matter more.
America first? What happened to all the
That's another
domestic
reason.
issues, the mass deportations, the Epstein client list, the
Yes.
cutting taxes, the January 6th cover-up, and
Yes.
on and on and on. And we're just like, here comes
Say
the
it,
Middle
Owen.
East again. Like, oh my gosh, just out of nowhere, so fast, just boom, now we're involved in Iran. So yeah, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem.
My hope is that by July 20, today, right now is June 23rd, 2025, that by July 23rd, 2025, America is not thinking about Iran anymore. That's my hope. We're not thinking about it. We're done with it.
Politically in the midterms and in 2028. It's probably too early to say it's going to flip it as far as the midterms and the House and the presidential election, but that's what history tells us is going to happen. And then you're going to have to deal with impeachment.
Okay, so these parts he's bringing up here, I disagree with Owen on. I don't think it's going to have any impact on the midterms. Assuming that we can actually lay this to bed within the next, even if it's not as I'm hoping in the next month, but in the next 3 months. Nothing that happens in an odd number year ever affects an election, unless you happen to be in a state where you're electing a governor in that election. My point is, though, it does not affect a federal election. It never has, it never will. It doesn't. I guess the one exception you can give me on that is the stock market crash. But the only reason that stock market crash in 1929 was an odd number a year, which had an impact on elections, is because the lingering effects of it was something that Americans felt on a day-by-day basis for the next decade, nearly. But yeah, as far as the your normal run-of-the-mill event, odd number of years don't count. So I don't think it's going to even affect the midterms, assuming they can get this put to bed for the next couple of months.
And this isn't going to be like the fake Ukraine phone call and the other fake impeachment.
Oh, impeachment, I don't think it's going to happen either. I don't think impeachment is going to happen. There might be a call for impeachment, but I don't think impeachment. But they could try. I will admit this. He's right that they could waste time with the whole impeachment thing, but they could try to waste time with it. I don't think you're going to get a majority in the House. I don't think you're going to get enough Republicans on board to impeach.
That the Democrats did. This will be real. This will be a real debate about the strikes being constitutional or not. There is a real debate.
If they're able to get an impeachment vote passed under Mike Johnson, that's a humiliating stain for Mike Johnson.
I'm not telling you what is right or what is wrong. I'm not getting into that, but that's what's going to happen. Now, you say, well, the Democrats don't have the votes. They might. I could see 5, 6, 7 Republicans giving the Democrats the vote to impeachment. I don't know.
Doubtful.
Is that really so far-fetched?
It seems doubtful.
You're already hearing the calls.
It seems doubtful because I think if you're a Republican and you vote for impeachment, the chances are very high that you're looking at getting primaried out. So I don't think that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised.
Now that's going to throw you off. Now here's the other problem that MAGA is having right now, and this kind of identity crisis, and this what is MAGA, or does it even exist anymore?
And what is MAGA is a question that I've been trying to answer for a very long time, and I think MAGA means different things to different people. Some people look at MAGA as being Trump. I think MAGA is actually a far bigger movement than Trump. But this does raise questions when you can see how easily it's fractured. Although there is no lightning rod issue that it seems to affect MAGA quite like Israel.
You have people that are just observing this and just watching all of this happen, and they're saying, well, what's going on here? Why is Netanyahu's foreign policy controlling our foreign policy? Why is Netanyahu now getting America involved in all of Israel's troubles? And why are we now doing Israel first policy, which is undeniable, as they keep moving the...
I think that's very deniable. It's very deniable when you consider the fact that Barack Obama hated Israel, and he said the same thing as far as they can't have nukes. and he really hated Israel. It's very deniable with respect to. I mean, this is a policy that every political leader has had forever.
The goalposts. Oh, they have nukes. They don't have nukes. They're months away. They're years away. They've been saying it for years. Now it's regime change. Oh, Israel can do it by themselves. Never mind. No, they can't.
I don't want regime change.
So everybody's just like, okay, what the hell is going on? And then they say, gee, Netanyahu seems to have a lot of influence on our domestic and foreign policy. And the Mossad is more trusted than our own intelligence sources. And now we're getting involved in the Israeli-Iran war. What is going on?
Where's the Mossad more trusted? I don't know where that happened.
And then they get called an anti-Semite. And they're just like, what the hell? I'm just trying.
And I think that's stupid. I think that label gets thrown around way too often. That's not to say I haven't seen some people who seem anti-Semitic. I've seen some of them in my ghetto here, but and some people have issues with the Jews. But I think that there's way too fast of a knee-jerk reaction on folks who are not at all anti-Semitic. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, you just hate Jews. It's a cop-out. It's a lazy thing, and it's harmful in that when there's a real anti-Semite, a real anti-Semite gets hidden. I'm going to make this point here as to why reason that particular charge, when it's wrongly labeled or too quickly thrown out there, why it really bothers me. If you start labeling people who are not anti-Semites as being anti-Semites, it gives people who actually really hate Jews a place to hide amongst those. Because now, well, we're all being branded that. So it's very damaging if you actually care about, especially if you're Jewish, and you throw that around willy-nilly, oh, you're an idiot, and you're stupid, and you're broad. That's why I get so angry at Jonathan Greenblatt, because it's like, by doing that, all you're doing is you're giving the real people who are just twisted beyond recognition an opportunity to hide amongst them, saying, oh, you see, I'm not the only one. You're also been labeled an anti-Semite, and you're not really. So it almost is like they just all get lumped together, and it's a way of just trying to say, how dare you oppose me? And it's stupid. It's stupid and self-defeating. It's stupid, it's lazy, it's self-defeating, it loses arguments rather than wins arguments. It's the dumbest thing in the world, and it gets me very, very angry. So
Trying to have, what are we talking about here? We're just making neutral observations and having geopolitical conversations and debates, and now all of a sudden I'm an anti-Semite?
I don't
What
think
happened?
I haven't seen anything that shows me
What
that
the
Owen
hell is
Sugar
going
at
on?
all.
So people are they're stunned. They're stunned. And then they're trying to figure it out, and they're having real conversations, and they're getting attacked, and they're getting called names. So yeah, how do you think that's going to help MAGA going forward? So again, I don't know if we could say it's dead, but it's definitely fractured. I mean, it's wounded. It's lying at this intersection right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's dead, but I do think that this is a critical juncture. It's a critical juncture, and it's another reason. It's yet another reason that we should be really hoping that this conflict, it's not reason number one, but it's up there as a significant reason why this conflict has to go to bed. It's another reason why attacking Thomas Massie was stupid. It's not good. It's not good. Even though I disagree very strongly with Thomas Massie in this particular issue, I think it's self-defeating.
Barely lifting its head up, grasping for air. So we'll see what happens next. But I'm not here to talk about the aftermath of this yet. I'm talking about the raw political consequences or potential consequences and what is to come next. And somebody responds to me on X because I'm like, wait a second. You're attacking me because we were right about Iran. We were worried we'd get involved in Iran, and now we are. So we were right. And somebody says, oh, well, you just care about being right. I'm a reporter. I'm a talk show host. I'm a journalist. So yeah, of course I'm right. I'm not an impersonator. I'm not a bought and paid for X account. We're having real political coverage here. Of course I'm obsessed with being right. I want my audience, I want the people that listen to me to know that they can trust what I'm reporting. So yeah, now you get to see the difference between cheerleaders and actual people that report and cover news. and at least try to do so from a neutral perspective, from an unbiased perspective, as possible as it may or may not be. Now, I'm going to have a follow-up to all of this later tonight, but I wanted to put out this right now about the state of MAGA and to just kind of put some realism into what's happening on X. But, you know, I see all this back and forth and people, oh, you're crashing out and you're crashing out. Hold on a second. Let's just be perfectly clear. I had family in town this entire weekend. I had a great day. I just got back from the pool. I've had a great weekend. But yeah, I get upset when my country bombs a foreign country. Absolutely. That upsets me. I don't like that. I get upset when I'm hoping for new no wars and now I'm involved in an Israel-Iran war. I get upset when now we could have potential terror cells in the United States of America get activated because of this. So yeah, I'm upset about that. But the only people crashing out here are the people that are hyperventilating over more war, the people that are hyperventilating over more death and more destruction. And now they're hyperventilating over the potential of a radical jihadist terror attack in America, because then they can demonize them and then they can call for more spying. And so if anybody's crashing out here, it's that type of person. Which
perhaps fractured isn't the right. I don't think it's temporarily. I don't think it's permanently fractured. If it was permanently fractured, I think that would be, you know, I don't think it's broken, but I think a fracture is a fair way. There's a fracture that's going on right now. There's a lot of like, you know, finger pointing. There's a lot of like, you know, you're a sellout, or, you know, it's one side is like you're a woke right, or the other side you've got, you know, people screaming you're a sellout to BB, and it's like there's a lot of finger pointing that's going on within the party. You can't. I don't think we should ignore that. Like I said, fortunately, it's an odd number. Yeah, that's why I said politically this makes sense. Politically, it makes sense. Like MAGA has time to recover from this, but don't think that a recovery is not needed, because it is.
Which there seem to be many of them all over the MAGA movement, and it's really unfortunate. So yeah, that stuff bothers me. But you know, no one's crashing out. We're still lucky to live in America, and you hope that this doesn't come at a price for us. That's our big concern, and that's a totally normal concern to have. So we've just entered a hyper speed of a realignment of politics, a realignment of media. Usually this takes about 2 years to play out. We just saw it play out in 2 weeks. So that's what is going on here. I'm going to have a follow-up with this video later tonight. I'll see you then.
All right. I promised, and I try to deliver on my promises whenever possible. I try to avoid promising, but I did put in there that if we hit our goal tonight, that I would have an extra hour and have some time where I would be fielding calls from you, those of you who want to talk about the current situation. Please keep the topic to Iran, Israel, America type of thing. I would appreciate that. If you would like to talk to me, the number to call is 972-454-0703. It's 972. I'm going to put the number on in a banner that's going to be scrolling across here. So the number is 972-454-0703. Where am I at here? Media assets, see banners. There.
Call from Anne. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
And
hey, how you doing, Joe?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, no problem. I'm doing great, but I have to admit the last 36 hours has taken me back in time.
How so?
Many years ago, I had my own podcast, and that was audio only, and I covered military and international affairs.
Okay.
And so I covered, when, the whole sending the cash to Iran, and broke all that down, and how that happened and all that stuff. And then I covered I stopped right after ISIS got kicked out. The caliphate kind of broke up because of life events. I just didn't have the time to do it anymore. But I have been, that's why I was like, okay, no, did you know this and did you know that? But I did have one funny quote I ran across on social media today. I just want to share just for a good laugh. I'm just pulling it back up.
Okay.
Because I'd shared it with my husband. And it's just one of those, okay, this just cracks me up. Iran builds secret nukes like a teenager hiding vape pens. Israel throws a fit like a jealous ex every time. And the U.S. walks in every few years yelling, "Let's talk," like a divorced dad trying to mediate custody. This isn't geopolitics. It's a dysfunctional family reunion with missiles.
That's funny.
And it just cracked me up. Oh, and by the way, the Iron Dome technology is much different than our own American Patriot technology. It's specially developed for Israel. And the U.S. Patriot, THAAD, and other air defense technologies are nothing like it. It's actually in some ways superior.
The what? The Iron Dome?
Iron Dome, yes. And I know this because for 14 years, my husband was active duty Army and he was Patriot missiles and air defense. So, I heard all about this stuff day in and day out. So, yeah, no, Iron Dome in some way, because Patriot missiles, can't tell you if it's going to hit a good target or not.
The Iron Dome
If
can.
it's going to hit in that area.
Yeah.
Whereas Iron Dome goes good populated area, not populated, and makes the decision that way. Patriots just like, it's coming, we're firing.
Yep. Yeah, I saw they developed something similar to put out fires. Like it shoots out, like where there's brush fires, it shoots them out before they turn into wildfires, which is pretty cool. I want to get to a bunch of calls if I can. So, was there any other final point you wanted to get to before I move?
No.
All right.
And thank you, and
God bless
have
you.
a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. God bless you, Ann. It's always good to hear from you. Thank you. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
All right, 972-454-0703. 972-454-0703. Was there anything else I wanted to cover before I get out of here? Make sure I covered everything. I think I got most of it.
Call from
Yanso.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing, Good Lawgic?
Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to remind everyone to please make sure they hit like and subscribe because I haven't done that. I haven't done that in a few podcasts, and I'm supposed to be doing it like multiple times a night. So hit like and subscribe.
Yet, so I'm going to do it right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. There you go.
Yeah, and everyone should.
All right. God bless you. What was your first name again?
Janso.
Janso. All right. How you doing, brother?
Good. Doing good. I just wanted to first say that I was born in 2004. I'm 21, just recently turned 21.
Okay.
So, I wasn't here for the 9/11 terrorist attacks. I, wasn't here for Obama's order. Who was it who sent us to Iraq?
That was Bush.
Oh, Bush. Sorry. I wasn't here for Bush. Barely remember Obama's. So my first administration and the one that I supported the most was Donald Trump's.
Okay.
So I really don't know anything about the situation, but I'm just going with feels.
Right.
And honestly, I don't have any problem with us attacking Iran. I'm currently going to be serving next year as a reserve.
God bless you.
Yeah. So,
God bless you. I'm going to, and I hope God protects you. And
thank you
in that endeavor as well as all your endeavors. It's very noble cause. So God bless you.
But so yeah, like I understand it once and I've seen it, but God, I hate all this speculation that is going around with no like I just feel like everyone's speculation and everyone's fear and like I watch Tim Pola and I watch Agenda Free TV. He's constantly showing Israel's nukes, Israel versus Iran's war live every day. And they post the U.S. has formally joined the war, and war is now like, are they gonna start the draft? And all this fear without really just, looking at it as objectively and as not biased as possible. It's just,
Yep.
I don't know.
Because it gets clicks. It gets more clicks.
Yeah.
It gets people to tune in when you see, like, you have a big, bold, all caps, war, America at war, or whatever. It's like, it gets emotions stirred up, and that's how you get more engagement. So
yes, and that's how you divide people. And honestly, I don't know, but it feels like something is brewing in the background that is want us to divide us so much. Because they couldn't divide us on the I last time I talked with you, I think it was about the Tony joke on the RNC. I believe it was.
Oh, Kill
And
Tony.
Kill Tony.
Yeah.
They invite us on that on the couch fucking sorry.
No worries.
On the JD Vance incidents, but they're managing to do that now, and I feel like this is some kind of big plan that they're planning.
So you're saying you're saying that it's purposefully being set up in order to help fracture us?
Oh yeah, most definitely, because I've seen other videos accusing Trump of siding with the left, because I see a lot of leftist media kind of supporting him, and it's like, wow, if they're supporting this incident, then maybe we shouldn't support it because the left is supporting it, so we shouldn't. Like, it's counter. Like, they want us, like, mind games. I kind of sound crazy. I understand.
No. You don't sound crazy at all.
It feels like they're using mind games on us, and it's working. And maybe
what's
it's working
really interesting. What's really interesting is, like, especially this particular issue, where it's like, you could look at someone who's screaming about, Trump dropping these bombs, and you could say to them, congratulations, you're on the same side as AOC and Rashida Tlaib. When's the last time and name another issue that you'd be on the same side as them?
None.
And that's like something that, like, I think I may have even said in the past. But then I thought about it, and I was like, okay, so now I'm on the side of Van Jones and Hillary Clinton. Like, when's the last time I was on the same side as them? So that's a fair response back. So this is an issue which just sort of seems to, I do think that it's fracturing to some degree MAGA, but I also think it ends up fracturing the Democrats. I think America in general, while it is that you can look at immigration, abortion, taxes, welfare state, one issue after another, that we just seem to be trans issues. It doesn't matter. It seems as if you can very easily know, okay, if you're on the left, you're going to be taking this position, and if you're on the right, you're going to be taking the opposite position. And based on where your affiliation is, I know where you're going to end up feeling on this particular issue. And the one topic that is completely different in that is the issue of Israel. And I think Patrick Bet-David had it correct with the whole IDS, but I also think that people who have IDS have been effective in delivering a message that seems political. And that I think a lot of people who are very strongly against Israel, it's not, I think many of them are pure of heart, but I think that they've just been like, I think they've been sold. There's just a whole culture out there of IDS, which is saturated in this country. So,
and honestly, I don't blame any country for looking for itself and
you
trying
should. You should. Every country should be looking out for themselves.
Yes. And the United States has the biggest army in the world. We're the strongest nation in the world. We're the biggest empire, if you want to call it that way. And who wouldn't be lucky to have us as an ally? Now I understand that we voted Trump as a peacemaker, whatever that could mean, in this situation doesn't mean bombing them and then trying to seek that way, because that's something that Trump has said, peace through strength. So are we gonna define it that way? Like, we're gonna bomb you and then we're gonna seek peace? That's what he's certainly doing. Or is that what we had in mind when he said that? Because I seen that too. Like, because some people view as everything Trump's doing as something he said he would, and then others are like saying, this is not what he promised us. He promised us peace through strength, probably putting other meaning that we're going to show the world that we have all this capability, but we're never going to use it. Is that?
Well, I think that's it. You know, I can understand both sides of it, because the whole thing is he's like, no new wars, and then he's also been saying no nukes for Iran. So it's like, well, which is it? And I think that he would say so far he's living on both of them. We're not at war, and he's keeping Iran from having a nuke. And then, so really what the question comes out is, what is going to happen over the next week or two? What is Iran's response going to be? And so much as to how the interpretation of this conflict and hindsight will really be, I think a lot of history is going to, in the distant future, we'll look back on this incident one way or the other, depending a lot on how Iran reacts, and whether or not it ends up having repercussions that end up costing American lives. That's really what I think is. I think that's going to end up being like the big factor here. I think Trump is banking that it's not going to. I think that's a large part of what he's banking on, and I pray to God he's correct.
I think because he was really effective on the peace through strength strategy in 2016. I mean, no country dared to start any wars. So I bet he was expecting to have the same effect, but the world already has gone to poop in the time he wasn't in office from 2020 to 2024.
I need to run along to the next caller, my friend.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
I appreciate the call.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Thank
answering.
you so much. You're awesome. I appreciate the call.
Bye.
Take care. All right. I agree. Good job, kid. And seriously, pray for his health. It's very noble. It's a noble, very noble thing.
Call from
Dick Parker.
Very noble thing. Friend.
Call from
Dick Parker.
Did you hear it now?
No, I had to mute my TV so I didn't get any feedback.
How you doing, brother?
Good. I just have to. I disagree. With you on the Russian Ukraine war.
Okay.
Because what we justified ourselves, we do not like nuclear proliferation, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that justified us in going out Iran's nuclear ambitions.
Correct. So how does that translate in the Ukraine war?
Because we signed the what was it? The
non-proliferation treaty.
Yes.
Okay.
We signed the agreement. We promised them if you give up, because they were in 91, after the collapse of the Russian end, they were like a third strongest nuclear power in the world.
Yeah, but so the question
we
on
promised
that,
them
to protect them, you're saying?
We promised to protect their sovereignty and security if they would give up their weapons. And so that's how we put our name on that.
Okay, and I can respect
our word as a nation.
And I definitely respect that. I definitely respect the notion that if we make a promise that we need to stick to it. So I can definitely respect that.
Our word as a man, as a nation, as a man.
Right. So I'm going to actually.
I mean, you and I are men, and our country is a nation.
I'm going to check with Grok exactly what the nature of the promise was, because I'm 98% sure.
Grok is not going to give you.
It's not. It was not exactly that we're going to defend you.
The culmination of what the total knowledge out there is.
Okay, I'm just going to ask it a simple question. What promise did America?
There was no promises. But do you think Ukraine would have gave up their weapons, not believing that America was going to protect them?
I don't know that they had actual.
Yes.
I don't know that they had.
Grok is going to Grok.
I don't know that
Grok is going to tell you.
You want to hear?
Sorry.
You want to hear my response?
Gotta wait on delay.
You want to hear my response?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You can. I'm going to let you. If you have more that you want to get out before I respond, that's okay. But yeah, my response was going to be that I don't know that Ukraine had control over the nukes. They had possession of the nukes, but that's not the same thing as having control of the nukes. And it doesn't. It's also a different thing from having control that they could stop it from getting into Russian hands, that Russia couldn't march on in there and take it.
I'm pretty sure possession is 99% of the law, right?
Well, it might be the law, but that doesn't mean that Russia was just going to let them keep the nukes, right? That could be the law, but
you think? So you think Russians were down there controlling, and there wasn't Ukrainians in there running the launching systems?
Okay, so what it actually, I know you're saying you don't trust. I know you're saying you don't trust. I don't know if they had launch capacity or not. I don't know that they may have. They may not have. I was throwing out speculation on that, but I just asked, and I don't know if you're seeing the screen here, and I'm pulling it up in big so people can see what promise did America make to Ukraine in exchange for their nukes? In 1994, Ukraine agreed to give up its nuclear arsenal, the third largest in the world at the time, inherited from the Soviet Union.
Respect the sovereignty.
In exchange, the United States, along with the UK and Russia, signed the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances.
Yes.
Key promises made by the U.S. Ukraine during this agreement were respect to sovereignty and borders. The U.S. pledged to respect Ukraine's independence and sovereignty. So
borders.
We are respecting their sovereignty. We're not invading. So that if we invaded, that would not be respecting their sovereignty.
But Russia also signed that, so they violated it.
So they violated it. So they violated. So
we should not back because we're.
I'm not saying we should back Russia. I'm not saying we should back Russia. I'm simply saying.
No, should we back Ukraine and stop Russia? Because you promised. You signed an agreement to promise their integrity.
This is what we promised. We promised that we will seek immediate United Nations Security Council action to provide assistance to Ukraine if it became a victim of an act of aggression or a threat of aggression involving nuclear weapons, which there hasn't even been that. And we did a lot more than this, where we gave them $100 billion, $200 billion.
Well, that's
right. And
so I see it. We basically took advantage of them because we didn't promise them anything.
No, I think I think they felt that was sufficient, right? I mean,
well, would you?
What I'm saying is, I don't think anyone can say if we told Ukraine we're done with you, go jump in a lake. I don't think that anyone could look back at this document, specifically the Budapest Memorandum, and say America breached. You could say Russia breached, but I don't think it would be a fair assessment to say America breached.
But we were a joining member in that. If another member, if we're in a group and we all agree to something, and one of them violated, would you not say, "Hey, you violated the agreement"? Would you not say something about that?
Yeah, but I mean, does that mean that you need to actually? So, if you till I don't even know.
Would you not?
Really, I'm not there. I'm not there. That we have to. So we send our troops in there, according to you. Is that what we should do? Because you're telling me there's 5 parties here, and if there was 100 parties there, and if there's 100 parties who signed it,
no-fly zone. So Russia, we're just gonna cover them in the air because they don't have any air power. We're gonna give them air power.
I don't feel like we've breached that agreement. I think even we tell them to go jump a lake, I don't think we're breaching that agreement. That's just my read of it. You can disagree with me. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I'm not the voice of God here. I'm just telling you, in my opinion, I do not believe that we breach agreement.
I might have my friends back maybe a little more than you would have yours.
I'm saying it's one thing to have their back. It's one thing to have their back. It's another thing to say I'm going to send my troops in there or bleed my people dry.
No, I don't believe in troops on the ground. No, I don't believe.
Oh, so we should be bled. So we need to be bled financially. That's what I have to do. Because 30 years ago there was but
the money we sent them, we could have saved half of that probably and just covered them air superiority, and the problem would have been solved.
That probably would have been World War III if we would have gone in there. That's a direct conflict with Russia. That's a direct conflict with Russia.
But our superiority over those guys, it's not even close.
And I'll tell you, Russia and Putin definitely will respond to that. And this is, I hate when I get pushed into a position where I have to defend Putin.
That's what I was talking about with the superpowers that have the capability of they're going to respect the the theory of MAD, mutual assured destruction. If you have children, you know as you have kids. You know as well as I do. When you have kids, your life stops to be important. The most important thing in the world is your children's life.
Look.
And so any leader of the countries that have children, they're not going to be willing to die if their kids are going to die too. So the supreme leaders of the countries. They're not willing. They're not going to start the fight.
I gotta get back in on Iran. So
okay, yes, I love you. I love you, brother.
You too, my friend. Shit. Thank you so much for the call.
Take care, man.
Bye bye. Okay, 972-454-0703. I didn't expect that we were going to end up talking about Ukraine tonight. Oh my God. I was like, how did we get here?
Call from
Dad the Man.
Dad the Man!
Hey, 3 points. 1, I sent you a gif of a mullah walking into law offices saying, we'll take legal action.
Okay. Awesome.
You see it?
Okay. All right. 2.
I'm sorry, headphone thing. You did see it?
I did not. I don't remember seeing that. Where did you see it on X?
Coming up. It said on the office of on the glass, the law offices of Horowitz and Rabinowitz.
I'll make sure to check for it. I can't look for it now, but I'll try to check for it.
Okay.
All right. Number
2. Who created the Nazi Party?
It wasn't Adolf who created it. He joined it pretty early on.
He joined it. A guy named Rudolph, I think it was Randolph or Rudolph Young, wrote a book, National Socialism.
Okay.
Last week, I suggested you try to get this guy on. You may not because he's like Dad said, he's an academic. Guy named, I think, Yoran Hazony, who actually around 2015 started writing about modern nationalism. And the point is that when we're saying, what is MAGA? Well, he's the guy who sort of started it all off. Or one of the guys. Okay.
Number 3.
You know something from the Karen Reed trial? Differential diagnosis of the war. How do you think it's going to end? Or not how do you think? What are the possible endings? And what do you want? I'll give you the two that I can think of. 1, and I want them to be stable. World War I may not have existed at the end of World War I, but World War II did because a lot of people said the Versailles Treaty would lead to World War II in 10 years. So So the two I have are Israel ceases to exist as a country. I don't think you like that one. And the other one is regime change in Iran. And in between, what solution is there that will be a stable solution?
You see, okay, here's why those two extremes. I can give you a much easier outcome than either one of those, which is the Ayatollah could drop dead of natural causes and at any time. He's 86.
And then his son will take over.
What?
And then his son will take over.
And then who knows what that means? What does that mean?
I mean, Khomeini died, and Khomeini took over from him.
Right.
The regime will just go on in a new person.
Yeah.
Just like North Korea, they're like on their third Kim.
Okay, but like, you know, father and son are different entities, right? So I have no idea. I'm not going to prejudge his son based on the father.
Sure about that since he's part of the Republican.
Yeah,
regard.
look, I wouldn't walk in there expecting that we're gonna see unicorns and rainbows, but that doesn't mean that you can't at least give him a shot to see like where his position is, right? At least to state his position.
And remember, it's not just him. It's this whole group of mullahs. They're all very much like-minded.
Mm-hmm. So what are you calling for? We should get a regime change?
Yeah, regime change. We should not be involved. If they want to kill each other, great. They'll kill each other, and then we'll make them part of Israel or whatever.
What do you think of what Death Angel Shadow wrote here? Which is, I wish people would stop with Trump would stop with you're either with or against him and stop trying to replace Massie and Rand. We should allow different perspectives in MAGA. What do you think of that?
It's hard to say because they're both they've been anti-MAGA since 2016. I don't think we can. So I think we need to pick our battles. It's like Ted Cruz. I mean, Tucker Carlson is trying to take him out. Well, okay, he's not the best. I mean, I wouldn't want him as president. But, okay, we're going to take him out. We're going to spend time putting someone else in. And then there's another seat, a Democratic seat we could have spent that time on that we're not going to.
All right. I tend to agree with Death Angels here on this one. I think we need to have an open mind on it. That I gotta move on to the next call here. Everyone's yelling, Joe.
Oh, by the way,
I hear them screaming it from like.
Yeah. By the way, I'd rather you have Pisco on than Robert Barnes again.
What was that?
I said I would rather you have Pisco on than Robert Barnes again.
Okay. Really? Wow. A vote for Pisco or Robert Barnes. That's harsh. That's harsh. All right, my friend. Let me
DM you an arm length of mistakes, including saying that on the night of January 6th, that, oh, this is no big thing.
Yeah.
Was it a big thing? He's like the girlfriend you date, who you go to the restaurant and she starts picking a fight with this big burly guy in the next booth so that you have to fight him. That's Robert Barnes.
I happen to like Robert Barnes. I do. I like him. I don't always agree with him. I know a lot of people strongly, but I happen to genuinely like. I genuinely like. I like the guy. Don't want my tears in sling places. Okay. Budapest was a memorandum, not a treaty. Just like our promise, NATO would not extend any further without a treaty. Yeah, that was. I was going to bring up NATO, but everyone was yelling at me to that they were tired of hearing me talk about it.
By the way, there was a coup in Ukraine.
I gotta get a call. I know we're not talking Ukraine. That's it. You said Ukraine. That's the penalty. I gotta hang up. I'm sorry.
Okay, bye.
Call from
Heisenberg.
Heisenberg.
To
Nice.
accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hello.
Oh wow.
Look at
Pleasure to
that.
speak to you.
Oh, I got Wall White on the phone here. Look at that. I hope you're not Vance Belton with the whole Heisenberg mask that he was wearing.
No, it's just my alias.
All right. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
So I'm always thinking about, so I'm 50 years old,
And all my life I've been, hearing about the, Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? And it just needs to be done. And we're getting so close to that point, but so far away. And I think the only way that we can possibly do it is if we have some other state actors take over the properties, that, like Egypt, we have to like force Egypt to take Gaza on.
Right.
With a coalition.
I speculated that Trump's whole objective with threatening to bring in American bases into Gaza was designed to open up the geopolitical terrain for an Egypt to come in there and say, well, we'll take it rather than you taking it. Like I speculated that, and I agree with you. This is an untenable situation. It's reached a point where it's like this just is not working.
Yeah, well, we need to have a state actor. You can't negotiate with terrorist groups or even and this needs to be like the same sort of thing on the West Bank. I think like Jordan needs to be active there so that and then with like a coalition again of other states around to finally have like a stable government, and you can like have negotiations between nation states instead of between people that are in a country that they're not co-aligned.
Well, here's the thing, Iran is such a wild card that I think it makes it impossible for a less hostile nation, because the Shia Muslims are far more aggressive than the Sunni, at least from what we've seen. So, and they don't get along with each other. It's not like a Muslim is a Muslim is a Muslim. Shia Muslims and Sunni Muslims are in many ways diametrically opposed from each other. And the Sunni nations are far more embracing to the idea of being tolerant of the West, the existence of Israel, and in general, far more productive towards let's all coexist rather than trying to kill each other, as opposed to Iran, which is like let's blow everyone else up, and if we get blown up in the process, that's okay too. So and there's no way to really turn Iran into a Sunni state. But if I'm hopeful that, and again, ultimately everything is in God's control.
Are you saying there that the United States did
but one
not see
second.
intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered
I had a pop-up
weaponization?
Here. It's unbelievable how this happened.
That's irrelevant. I think.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm hopeful that if Iran's nuclear capabilities are crippled and they're sort of a little bit bludgeoned, that the other friendlier Muslim nations will feel sufficiently comfortable that they can actually openly express a willingness to take over the Gaza situation without worrying that that's going to jeopardize their ability to stay alive and not be decapitated and dethroned or start an invasion from Iran. So I think I think that's what Trump is hoping for, and it seems like it's a possibility. So
sure.
Yeah, I think that's the best case scenario here.
So it seems like it's like the Sunni nations, the leaderships are liberal in a way. Like they're willing to work with the West. They want money and commerce and peace and prosperity, right?
Mm-hmm.
The populations are more radical, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the Shia is actually the opposite, where you have these in Iran in particular. They're driving. I mean, it's a really strange situation because Iran is supporting Sunnis in Gaza, right? And they're Shia. So like
it shows you how deep their hatred of Israel runs, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They would cross that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enemies
that's
make
what I had to say.
strange bedfellows. I appreciate you calling in, my brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love you.
Donald Trump tonight bombed 3 of Iran's top nuclear facilities, essentially wiping out the possibility of them possessing a nuclear weapon that they can use
I
against
have
us.
so many things popping on me. I don't know why it does that. Why are you doing that to me? I'm just going to close out all those windows, and hopefully that'll remedy the situation. All right, I'm going to take one more call before I get on out of here because it is late. Joe, wait. What? Robert Barnes is a very interesting take. And then you sing a song with me. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Experts, joking, smoking. Don't you know the Joker laughs at you? Ha ha ha. Ho, ho, ho. What? What was that? That's I Am the Walrus. It's before your time. It's a Beatles song. All right. So yeah, if I get another call in here in the next 30 seconds, then we'll go with it. I'll pretend that my thing is not. But I think I tuckered you all out. I outlasted you all, and that's good too. All right. All right. 2 calls coming at the same time.
Call from
Ron.
Ra.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
By the power of Ra. Mystic.
Hello.
Sorry. You know I'm getting tired when I'm starting to sing Disney. All right, what do you got?
All right, I just wanted to let you know that I discovered your podcast through Rakita.
Cool.
And I also discovered Robert Barnes, a couple other people. But I'm glad Rakita is done with that.
Oh, me too.
Trial and seems to have recuperated. And
thank God.
I'm also glad because there were so many people who had actually Rakita had helped and suddenly used them like a punching bag nonstop.
Yep.
He did things that were bad, but
yep.
Look in the mirror before you judge people. And I'm glad that he was able to keep his kids and all that insanity.
Indeed.
I watched listened to Robert Barnes on that, and everybody was slamming him and also questioning some of the things you were doing when you were, I don't think you really covered it too much, but I know that there were people who were saying, well, if you support Rakita at all, you're the Antichrist.
Pretty much. I got that. Yeah. I didn't really. It didn't. I was only going to cover it like when it was like something that was very hot to me. It's like it's kind of a little bit of. I covered it to the extent that I felt like if I didn't cover it, it would look like I'm trying to like run away from a topic, which I obviously, people figure out what I have some knowledge about. But I mean, look, I think that some people were trying to approach it fairly. I think others were trying to take advantage of the situation, and people have to figure out what they want, So
and the other thing
it's interesting you bring that. It's interesting you bring that up now because, like, in the context of everything we're seeing from social media influencers in MAGA and the split that's happening there, it does in a lot of ways. It does remind me of the similar type of split we saw when Nick was going a year ago when Nick was going through his struggles, and I definitely see the similarities, and I think that we're healthiest if people play to their convictions rather than playing to the money. I think some people are very transparent when they're trying to play for where they think they're going to get the most clicks and things of that nature. And I think that's the minority. I think that we need to, and that we should be avoiding. I only threw out one party today that I was maybe two, a second one by implication, who I was like, okay, this guy's a grifter. And I was talking about the Hodgetwins, and I think that I think they expose themselves as being sloppy at the very best, and if not, just completely nefarious. So, yeah, but I didn't really call out anyone else other than one or two who I think everyone has seen just how kind of insane they are. But you know, as far as and saw it before this weekend with, you know, so I think that I'm hopeful for the most part that this whole situation, much like I was hoping about Rekieta, I'm hoping that this whole situation will go away relatively quickly and we can actually get back to what we do best, which is fighting to make America a healthier and better society for all of us.
Yeah.
God knows we need it.
I just, we have too many problems here in this country, and there's too many agendas that Trump needs to really focus on. And now we're doing this. It seems to a lot of people like a betrayal. I understand some of his arguments for it, but I don't know how this is going to improve things. It's just going to strengthen, I think, a rally around the flag action in Iran.
Well, I'll tell you one way it could happen. I'll tell you one way it could happen, by the way, that MAGA would be quickly rejuvenated back together with itself, is if there is a serious push for impeachment. I think I think MAGA will quickly heal itself and like basically be like, oh, hell with that and hell with you for trying to claim that he should be removed. I think that if there is any sort of call for that, it would be a distraction and it would be annoying, but it also would be a very unifying event for MAGA to sort of be like, okay, you cannot be seriously trying to take out Trump and have him removed. And if any politician is stupid enough to jump on, I do not think Thomas Massie is stupid enough to join in trying to get him impeached. I don't think he is, because I think it would be suicidal.
I think Massie, from what Barnes has said and what other people have said and what I've read, is that he's really pissed off about the agricultural department and appointing that I forget her name now, Brooke something. I can never remember her name. Who's really more like a neocon and is not helping at all people like the Amish farmers and other small farmers. So he apparently is really ticked off about that. So that's my understanding. I think that impeachment would be another circus. Impeachment has only really worked once, and that's with Richard Nixon, and they didn't even go all the way through it.
Right. It's never really worked. Yeah.
It's been a really weak weapon. It doesn't work. So
I think I would disagree with that. I disagree with that to the extent, and here's why. Because I think it's a good thing that it should be something that's very difficult. It should be there for someone who's really goes crazy rogue. And I think, like, you know, but in general, assuming our elections have integrity, which you could ask a million questions about what happened in 2020, but assuming our elections have integrity, that the will of the people should ultimately be respected. So we're a constitutional republic, but with the one element to our democracy is in picking our leaders, and assuming it's being done proper, I think that should be respected unless someone just goes completely rogue. So the fact that people might get impeached and then not get convicted, I think that's reflective of a system that's actually working, perhaps. I don't know. I think I know the Democrats abuse it purposefully, and they'll throw it out there every 10 seconds. But the fact that he's not, it's really tough to remove him is probably a good thing.
Yeah. And one more thing, which I don't know if anybody, I came in late, like 10 minutes ago.
No worries about
I found out that you were on. But the other thing I want to talk about is, or just compliment you on, is when you did that filing in that.
Oh, to ungag Trump?
Yeah, that insane, the many kangaroo courts cases that were thrown, the lawfare, the one up in New York where you, like, I saw you when you had the show on and you were typing up your case
lawyer
in the middle of the
mukbang.
night.
You know, you brought that you brought that up. I'm gonna share something with you as far as a personal impact that had on me that I never anticipated. And that is that it actually gave me, despite not getting for the Supreme Court from the get-go, my thought is I'm going to have to get for the Supreme Court with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I really worked hard. I mean, I worked really hard, and it was really expensive, and I worked really hard. And it was when I was done, and I ended up not getting before them, it actually had an impact on me in a very positive way, where it made me, I was thinking afterwards, like, I spent so many hundreds, I don't know, thousands of hours on an issue that's important to me, but likely would have no direct impact on me. It's unlikely I'm going to find myself in a situation that I'm, indicted and gagged. So it's far less directly affecting me. It felt like it affected my rights as an American, and that the principle of it was an important thing to do, and I didn't regret any of it. But what I took from it was I was killing myself just to try and get an hour to an hour and a half to argue in front of 9 humans who, as respected as they are, that I'm working so hard and putting in so much effort day after day and running to court and filing and papers and trying to beg a clerk to help me, beg you guys to help support me, just begging everywhere on an issue that has relatively little personal impact, direct impact on me. And it actually made me reassess, like, that I should be far more appreciative of the fact that when I sit and pray, I have a chance to talk to God every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually had like a very religious impact on me, where I'm like, that I take that so much for granted, and I was kind of almost embarrassed by that. And it's because of that I actually started taking it had an impact on me where I take my prayers far more seriously, where I'm like, if I'm going to sit there working so hard just for a chance to talk to these 9 humans about an issue that is relatively on a personal level, the impact on me directly is relatively insignificant, I should certainly take far more seriously like conversation that I have with God about things that have a direct impact on me and my immediate family. So it actually, I never shared that with, I didn't think I was going to share that. I talked to my wife about it, and some family members about it, but like I think it's fair for me to share that with the audience who saw me go through that whole process, as far as like a takeaway that I had from it, where I actually feel like I'm a much happier person now, ever since I started appreciating the significance of having a chance to talk to God and like actually have a conversation with him. I don't know if I can explain it any better than that, but I just I wanted to share that because I think that if we actually take a moment to think about like what we're doing and reflect on what we're saying about ourselves, it gives us an opportunity for personal growth. I often talk about the following and how the show is about personal growth, and that that part of being the following is personal growth. And I know that a lot of people might think it's shtick and it's a joke and that it's like, and it's a grift or whatever, and that it's just like a running gag. And it to a degree, obviously, I think it's funny and, to sort of play in on the whole following thing. But it's rooted in the sense that I think that personal growth is something that we should continually be trying to self-assess and self-examine. And if we do that, in that case, ultimately, it leads to our own genuine happiness. And because you brought this up, so I just was talking about how that actually had a very personal and direct impact on me and my own emotional and psychological health and happiness and well-being. So there you go.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
sometimes it's easier to talk to God than to government officials. So
that's definitely true. I'll tell you this much: it's thousands of times more productive. That's for sure. Anyway, my friend, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Have a great night, my friend. Take care. Good night.
You too. Bye.
All right, that's our show, and I'm sticking to it. And yeah, I think it's time for me to land the plane. I promised 3 hours. We did 3.5. So I feel like I covered what I'm supposed to cover. Tomorrow morning, I'm supposed to be heading to court so I can cover more of the Diddy trial, which thankfully is going to end this week. We're coming down the home stretch. This is the last week of Diddy coverage. So I'm back in court tomorrow. Anyhow, I urge you, if you're still here, please like, share, subscribe. Drop a comment down in the algorithm because it helps the algorithm and all that other stuff. The lab meat is definitely not for you. We know that. It's for they, them, not you. Not you. Do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. God bless you all. God bless our troops. God bless America. And let's hope that we can get out of this incident without anyone further being scathed. Good night, everyone, and Godspeed.